We'll go ahead and call the Bay St. Louis City Council meeting August 8th, 2023 to order at 5:32. If y'all would rise for the prayer and pledge, thank you. Mr. Lewis will lead us.
Name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Lord, we want to thank you for another opportunity to be here today and be here to be a steward of your presence and leading our neighbors, leading each other, and doing what we can to ensure that we are living in your name each and every day. We know we go through trials and tribulations, but we just ask that for the grace and the humility to ask you for your assistance when needed, and then more importantly, ask for your grace when it's not needed. And so, Lord, we want to just thank you again for giving this opportunity and continue to guide us, hold us, and keep us strong. We'll end on our Father. Our Father,
who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Any agenda amendments needed?
None from us.
From council? Okay. Public speakers, Waveland Community Unity, anybody here to represent them? Mr. Reed put it on there, but he wasn't able to make it tonight, so, okay. All right, we'll move on to planning and zoning. Item A, motion to approve the application for special subdivision plat approval and variance to the zoning ordinance and submitted by August Adam, located at 308-310 St. John Street, parcels 149L-0-29-083-000 and 149L-0-29-084.000, approved 6-0, planning and zoning. Anybody here representing this application? Okay, I heard it back there. Anybody here in opposition to this application? What's the pleasure of the council?
Follow the recommendation of planning and zoning approved.
Motion, Mr. Seal. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Zimmerman. Any discussion? We'll vote the motion.
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye. Motion passes 5-0. Thank y'all. B, motion to follow planning and zoning's recommendation and approve the application for special exception to the zoning ordinance as submitted by Claire Yearwood and Dan Mung, located at 342 Main Street, parcel 149E-0-29-323.000, approved 6-0 by planning and zoning. Anybody here representing this application? Okay. Anybody here opposed to this application? What's the pleasure of the council?
Motion to follow planning and zoning recommendation to approve.
Motion, Mr. Seal. Do I have a second?
I'll make second.
Second, Mr. Lewis.
Discussion.
Discussion?
And just to confirm, so this is essentially taking an accessory structure, turning it into an accessory dwelling, but there's not going to be any setbacks needed. There's not going to be any further hindrance or building upon that current structure.
Can you step to the mic, please? I'm sorry. But that is correct, yes.
Dan Munn, 342 Main Street. That's correct. The footprint's staying exactly the same.
Okay. Yes, sir. All right, thank you. Any further discussion? Vote the motion.
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye. Passes 5-0. Thank you. Item C was the Ballantyne application, and it was withdrawn. D is motion to follow planning and zoning's recommendation and approve the sketch plat as submitted by Dan Tag and Holdings LLC, located along 3rd Street, Cary Court, and Ramonita Street, parcel number 137R-0-44-070.000. It was approved 4-2 at planning and zoning. Anybody here to represent this application? Okay. Anybody here in opposition to this application? What's the pleasure of the council?
I just would like to kind of discuss this,
Okay.
but Mr. President, if we don't mind.
Okay, you wanna discuss first? Okay,
Yeah.
discussion. Yes, sir.
And just looking at this, and I know we're in the midst of our comprehensive plan and gathering that data, as well as, I know, I think in the budget process, we are allocating $100,000 towards zoning ordinances. So just in the nature of a proposal or an application of a subdivision, you know, with this magnitude, I know it's, you know, it meets the threshold, 3.8 acres doing 6 parcels. But I really would like to see what comes out of that and where we decide from the input from the residents on how we're handling those in the future. So I would like to hold on those and until some of that data comes out and we can more definitively, you know, have an idea of the zoning ordinances that are coming about.
Okay, all right, any other discussion on that from the other council?
Yeah, I was looking at this one also, and I'm kind of the same opinion. And, you know, last couple of months, I've been, you know, talking about, you know, subdivisions of large tracts of land like this, because we are in the midst of a comprehensive plan review, and until that's finished, I even asked for a moratorium on land splits. But I was kind of in agreement with this, to hold off, but that's just my opinion with so many changes taking place.
Ms. Smith, and I would think, I guess we need to ask Ms. Smith, but I would think that all we could do is legally vote on what's in front of us tonight, one way or the other, and that be where, yes.
So
Today.
until you get another one in place, right now you're operating under
What's in
your
place.
zoning and your comprehensive
Yeah.
plan.
Okay, all right, that's what, okay, so, what is the pleasure of the council?
Yeah, so this property is a unique parcel of property. It's surrounded by I-1 industrial on the backside, R2 across the street, and R1 on one side, R3 on the other side. You know, it's the lots, whether we agree or not. What's in front of us, the zoning ordinance is clear. The property there's no variances requested for the subdivision of this property. Would I rather see something else there? Yes. From a legal standpoint, they're not requesting, to me, anything that's not legally by right for them to do, quite honestly. Yeah, sometimes you gotta make tough decisions. But from a legal standpoint, they're not asking for variance, they're not asking for exceptions. They're asking to subdivide their property by legal plat, by the required square footage. Lot 1's 30,849, lot 2's 30,850, lot 3's 30,855, 30,857, 30,880, and 30,732, which is, they need a 10,000 square foot lot by ordinance. For an R3 property, they need 7,500 square foot for the first unit and 2,000 square foot for multiple units, which I agree that that's not, we don't want to put a bunch of apartment complexes back there, right? But from a legal standpoint, how do you deny it? Right, from a legal standpoint, that's the problem. They're asking by right to subdivide a piece of property that is legal by all meets and bounds. It's zoned that way, right? Would I rather have have 6 R1 properties, you know, houses on 30,000 square foot property? Sure, I would love that. It's not my property. People have a property. I tell people the hardest thing I do is tell you what you can and cannot do with your personal property that you pay taxes on. And we have legal guidance in front of us that's required by our zoning laws. It says this is your rules, this is your regulation, and this is how you proceed. And unfortunately, this is one of those that they're not asking for. If they're asking for variance or exception, then it's like, no, we can't do that. They're not. They're asking for subdivision of property that is by right 3 times as big as they need.
Well, I know there was some discussion at P&Z, you know, and it was centered upon, it was never solidified, but I think everyone would like to see this as single family.
Oh, yeah,
I think
but
it was
I
stated,
agree,
and I
yes.
think it was stated, you can't make that guarantee.
Right.
I think there is some ambiguity here with it touching so many different different types of
Yes.
you
Agreed.
know,
Yeah, that's-
residential, then you're looking at industrial too, and what could potentially. So I get it. You
No,
know,
yeah,
but
it's
I
the
think-
that's the rub, right?
I'm hoping some of
It's
that
surrounded by everything.
ambiguousness would be ironed out once some of the new.
Yep.
Yes,
But-
yeah. And I guess the good thing is it's R3 and not industrial, so it couldn't be any industrial on none of the partials if it's subdivided. And my only comment is what Mr. Seal said, the 7,500 square foot lot requirement for the first dwelling, to me, dividing it actually makes it where it'd be less dense than if it stayed as one partial and sold to somebody that wanted to develop apartments or condos or something on that partial. So,
So I'm gonna go and make a recommendation to follow planning and zoning.
just 1 second, real quick. Come on, Ms. Cliff.
Cliff Rappelate, 702 Third Street. I live just up the street from there. These lots would be half the size of the place where my house is. The question I have is, somewhere I seem to recall that a subdivided lot is not supposed to be subdivided again. Am I incorrect or am I correct in that? Try to remember. In other words, once these lots are
Right.
100 foot by 300 foot,
They stay that way.
they stay that way.
Yeah.
Because listening to what Josh was saying, somebody buys one, splits it up into three, and now you put three.
You have to have frontage in
That's
the
the-
road and everything.
Right.
The road
So you have
frontage.
zero frontage, right?
You couldn't
Yeah.
cut it in half because you don't have frontage.
And you got a 100
Yeah.
foot, which is the minimum.
And you'd have to ask for a
Yes.
variance for a road or
Road-
something, so
road
that
width.
that way you could.
And I'm like you, Doug.
I know
You know,
it sucks.
I'm R1 right there, but
Yes.
this gentleman and I spoke in the parking lot, and I think his family trust is trying to do something with it, and not being successful, and they're hoping to do something. So
Okay.
much as I would like to see it be R1, is what I said at P&Z,
Yeah.
I have a hard time saying absolutely not. So I do want to clarify.
No, I will look
Once
that
they're
up.
subdivided,
Yep.
we're not gonna be cutting them up
I
anymore.
think Mike said it right, so if it's
Road frontage
road
limited.
frontage, you'd have to ask for a variance or
Yes.
for that, which there could be grounds for denial.
Yes.
Thank you,
so-
gentlemen.
Thank you, Ms.
I'll
Cliff.
check on that.
All right, so we had a motion by Mr. Seal to follow planning and zone's recommendation and approve. Do I have a second? Second, Mr. Zimmerman. Any further discussion? Vote to motion.
Aye.
No.
Nay.
Aye. Passes 3-2. Thank you. Item E, motion to.
One question.
I'm sorry.
Are we going to recess early, or are we going to full meeting tonight?
It's going to full meeting. I mean, if we get out here by 7:30, and to me, we and Josh was talking about
Yeah.
that, right? We recess early, there's nothing happening until 8 o'clock, huh?
Okay.
I mean, I don't know, right?
We're gonna try to make it through, and maybe some things, if they're gonna be long, if we wanna kick them to next meeting, we
We'll
can
tell
do that. once
Cliff,
we
you
get
can't
there.
speak no more tonight. We'll talk later.
Yeah. Item E is motion to approve application for text amendment is submitted by City of Bay St. Louis to section 307.1.1 wire fences of the 28 IPMC. It was approved 6-0. I think we
Yeah,
have
I'd
some
like to
discussion on that.
remand that back to planning, to the building department or zoning or whatever, to look at that.
Define the frame.
Define the frame, it's not, it's very,
Okay.
it's not defined. We'd like to remand that back to,
So do we just kick it back, or do we make a motion to
Make a
deny it?
Mm.
Okay.
Yep.
Cary Court
Mhm.
on the corner of Central. We were one of the people that contacted our ward person Kyle and asked to put in the same type of fence that's across the street
Right.
at the other corner. And the reason was twofold. One, we thought it would be an attractive entrance into the area. And then the second reason was probably the most important reason was safety. And that it's so hard in that area on Central, trying to get out from Carrier, Valentine or whatever on Central, that it is a really dangerous. You have to practically go into Central to see what you're doing. And so if we had a fence that was the mesh wire like at Nikki Moon's house,
Mm-hmm.
that would serve that purpose. And the way people fly down Central, because there's no traffic mediation there. That's another topic for another day. But
He's
it's just,
listening.
we didn't want to put up a picket fence because it would block the view, et cetera, et cetera. So that's why we started asking. I don't know other people's reasons. I do have some pictures here of like the corner of our street where you can see how far out this. I don't know if you all want to see
Yeah,
these
I
or not.
came by and took pictures the other night,
Did you, does anybody
just
want?
looking at it, trying to figure it out. So
Um,
the
Yeah, I'd like
problem,
to see what you have. I have one.
the
That's the
problem,
only one you have?
Yeah, it's a white one.
See, our house is back there, and we were gonna take this down and put the fence up here, and you can see where the stop sign is. It's way forward towards, Central, but if there was just wire mesh fence, a vehicle could safely be back here and safely make a right-hand turn without worry that someone was gonna,
So it wouldn't
into
be,
him.
it wouldn't be like this white fence
no,
here?
sir, it would
Oh.
be, I have other pictures.
Well, you can use regular chain link,
Yes, if you're not married to a man who hates chain link. But I have to admit that it's, that I'm sort of with him on that. This is the fence across the street, which is what we want to do, except we want to put a top rail on the top to add a little bit more sturdy, but it's also more durable than any other kind of fence. It doesn't need painting, it's not gonna get rusty. Here, you can pass all these pictures.
Okay.
There are a lot of reasons
Yes,
for,
ma'am. Yeah.
for wanting to have that, so I hate to see it.
well, it's the aesthetics, right?
It is an aesthetic when you enter our area. It's definitely an aesthetic.
Well, so I got a picture here, right?
Yes.
Somebody's yard that has this fence up, it's pasture fence,
Yes.
right? So if somebody can put pasture fence up in their front yard in the city of Bay St. Louis when we approve this,
Yes.
that's not what we want.
Okay, because it does exist within Bay St. Louis right
Shouldn't
now.
be. It shouldn't be, because it's not legal.
Well, I mean, I don't know when
I
the
don't know who
ordinance
did it, but
started.
it's not legal.
Right,
It's not by zoning ordinance,
right,
right? But it's pasture fence.
right. It has to be at least 4 gauge.
Well,
That
it
was
is.
what
It is.
zoning.
It is, but it's not. So I got pictures of Mr. Kenishi's office. He used it, right? And
Mhm.
he's got it boxed in. It looks great,
Right,
but it's not defined today. I can put pasture fence in my front yard on St. Charles Street in the city of Bay St. Louis or on Main Street. That's not what the look and aesthetics that we want at all. Period. And I understand you want to do it right,
yeah,
but if I don't have it defined correctly in my zoning ordinance,
okay,
then I don't have a leg to stand on. But it's not that we're not going to do it,
okay,
but it's defining it
right.
and then implementing it and then managing it, right?
Well, yeah,
Because it rots off and somebody takes the top off. Well, I got pasture fence in the front yard on Main Street.
right.
So, we got to watch what we're doing, because it looks good today.
I know
but
that's
you don't
why,
maintain it.
that's why they said 6 gauge, and I think they also included a topper, that they
Well,
had to
but
have
it
toppers.
doesn't say that.
Oh, it doesn't?
Yeah.
Okay,
So
that's what we
yes,
talked about.
yeah, it's not defined.
Okay,
Yeah.
So I'd like it to look just like Jason Kenishi's office.
okay,
If I have my way, that's why I'd like to see it.
okay.
But Councilman Sue, we don't dictate maintenance of fences.
Well,
and that there's
we
plenty
don't,
that
right?
there's plenty that are
That's true. There's
that
some
are-
chain link on my street.
I know, it's terrible,
So we'd
right?
all-
But
but-
if you have, if you, in 10 years, the pasture fence, on Main Street, the wood rots away.
or any dog-eared
street.
6 foot. I mean,
Yeah.
there's if you
I
don't
know.
maintain it, any fence,
Yeah.
even that are approved,
Yeah.
could be dilapidated and
Yeah.
like.
But
be
so
an
if you don't
eyesore.
start with the right product,
Yeah.
then you're doomed to fail to begin with.
Right.
And therefore, I will vote no to not have pasture fence in people's front yard.
Well, I would be happy to serve on some kind of committee that would define it
Yeah.
so that people would have no question
Right.
about it had
Yes.
to be
Yes.
6x6 posts or 6 by
Right.
whatever.
Yes, ma'am.
As a citizen, I would be happy to
Right.
Yeah, I think
to work
that's-
with the
And I
city
think
on
that's what
that.
we're trying to do, is just
Yes.
get it right.
And I understand
Not
that.
to
Yeah,
box it.
I understand that.
Yes, ma'am.
And for Miss Connie's sake, or any other residents that may have a fence that may not technically that's by zoning not allowed,
Right.
the process, right? So it'd be a variance coming in and showing us what that
Right.
fence would look like, what's going to be used, and then the determination from there. Is that correct? It would still be a variance request to.
For
Correct.
non-typical fence.
Yes.
But
Yes.
not
If it's an
approved.
outlier that's not approved, would they
Right.
go through the same process?
I was told there was no such thing as asking for a variance on a fence.
That's
I
a
don't
good
remember
question. I mean,
who told me that.
Yeah. That's not true.
Oh, okay.
I'd have to go look at your international property maintenance and
Yeah.
see
I don't think
what,
I-
if
IPC
there's a
defines-
variance,
Yeah, I don't know what the variance is on
process
that.
in that. I don't have that in front of me to be able to
But yeah, I just,
tell you.
you have the right
What
intent.
it can be.
Yes,
Somebody else 3 times out.
And I understand that. That's why I volunteered
yes,
Right.
ma'am.
to work on that. And
Yes, ma'am.
the other reason, you know, between us is to close off our driveway so that people can't bash in the window on our
Yes.
expedition and
Right.
cost us.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, though.
Yes, ma'am.
Because your
Thank you.
zoning is height. So you can ask for a variance to the height of the fence
Oh,
for
not
zoning,
type.
but
Not the type.
Only a
not that the property
We've
maintenance
had
code.
type in
is what-
historical district
Right,
ask for
Yeah.
variance.
right.
Mhm.
That's
Yes,
right.
and then the historical.
And height everywhere, so.
Okay.
There's parameters of what you can do in a historical district, and then you have your,
'Cause
also
that's
your
defined by historical.
international property maintenance code, which is what you were looking at
Right.
amending here. And I don't think there's any other things unless you know something does,
I don't.
that it's gonna be your property maintenance code,
Yep.
your zoning, which does the height, and then your
RPC.
historical preservation, which dictates in our historical
Yep.
zones.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, let's remand this back and let's see if we can better define this.
And maybe they can
Thank
take
you.
a picture and draw a sketch of what they call
Take a
it,
picture of-
boxed in
Yeah,
or
take a
something,
picture of
yeah.
Jason's and say
So,
this is what you want.
Okay. So we need a motion if we're gonna
could have a
deny it, to
motion.
send it back, correct?
Just
Yes.
table it, send it back.
Yeah.
Motion to deny.
Motion, Mr. Seal, to deny, to send back and come back with a more defined scope of boxing the fence. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Zimmerman. Any further discussion? Vote to motion.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, passes 5-0. Thank you. All right, thank y'all. Mayor's report, item A, motion to authorize the administration to advertise for bids to create two pickle courts? Okay. Pickleball courts
Dill courts.
at McDonald Park
Hopefully
and to fund the project using 2020 bond funds.
Motion.
Did y'all plan this to be today? I heard it was National Pickleball Day this
No,
month.
It is.
no.
Is it?
They had
Yeah, what
pickleball
is
on TV the other day.
Yeah?
I'm like the
What is
championships,
today?
pickleball championships.
National Pickleball Day.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. Oh, y'all made
Oh,
fun
In
that's
of
honor
me.
of
Motion.
National
Motion.
Pickleball
Oh,
Day,
we've been
and
talking
Gene
about it for
Hoffman
2
asked to
years.
bring me on.
Yeah. Motion, Mr. Seal. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Lewis. Any further discussion? Vote to motion.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. B is motion to execute the agreement to purchase of advanced metering infrastructure, AMI systems to read gas meters and water meters for $285,778 from Equipment Controls Company with the Utility Capital Maintenance Funds, and to approve the annual AMI software starting in year 2 for $17,729.
How are you gonna get around the state bid laws on this?
Yeah.
Sole source.
We don't have a sole source form attached.
So nowhere in the country,
I've asked
out
about
of
that.
350 million people, there's only one place that makes gas meters.
That makes these meters, they're the supplier for these meters.
So Mayor, are these meters, they go with our system?
Correct.
Yes, they can be attached to the meters we have. We don't have, right now, we're looking at purchasing, I think it's 1,050 to 1,100 MIUs that fits our meter. The ones now that we use no longer make gas MIUs to get the readings from. So now when all these MIUs are going out over this period of time, meters are getting estimated at times and this and that, because we don't have the ability to change them out. So we're looking at changing it all out completely. That will give us a reading from the tower. We will no longer have to read gas meters driving by in vehicles. It's gonna give you the ability to have up-to-date,
24 times a day.
24 times a day readings. So if something comes up at your place, say you have gas and you have a leak, say, it'll detect that where it's continuous high flow or something, and we can get an alarm on that to try to, prevent something from happening. But-
I'd like to get a ruling on it. I don't feel comfortable voting this dollar amount, without getting something from the state attorney general's office or the
We have,
thing.
so there's
saying
a
that we
sole
okay.
source form that we just didn't get.
What's that?
There's a sole source form that's
I
filled
think it's
out.
been sent.
right? It's filled out, it was, cause I asked the same question, right? Where's the other bid? And they said, and I talked to Denise at.
So you have the form?
No, and that was the question I had for Riso and him, where's the form? He
The
said he thought it was
source
attached.
letter?
Yes.
I tried to send it, did not go.
Well, I don't have my email open.
I just read
They
it.
originally
Hold
sent
on,
it,
I can-
it was supposed to be attached, and then that was the question just now, but Denise, again, not Denise, Debbie ran in
I mean,
to
Debbie,
Doug
I'll say Denise.
and forwarded it. So,
Here, if you give me a second, I can read.
No,
it
yeah, I mean,
here.
that was my question too, Gary. How can we buy something without, over $50,000 if it's not
No.
sole source and
And the
approved?
reason they the sole
Census-
source is because they compatible with the current meter, so we're not changing no meter,
Yeah.
just the MIU.
Let me, yeah.
Okay.
So the sole source letter says whom it may concern. Census, a Xylem brand, recognizes Equipment Controls Companies as an authorized distributor of Census products for Mississippi. Purchasing Census products from an authorized distributor in your area ensures that your products will be properly supported and warranted. Please contact Equipment Controls Company for all of your census needs. And this is on census letterhead. So that is the census distributor for our area, and I'm assuming that is the only one, the only distribution center in our area. Says we look forward to doing business with quality gas products and service in the near future. Please feel free to contact me with questions. So I guess the question that the council, and as far as AGs and what they would say, Gary, they typically put that it's a decision for you guys to make based on the facts and the circumstances. So the question of going back that I guess the council just needs to hear is the Census Xylem brand, is that the only reader thingy-mabopper, whatever you want to call it, that can be placed onto our gas meters? And I think there's a representative for the company.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I guess I'm also looking at, there's a whole bunch of other equipment you have to purchase on top of this $285,000. So you got $15,000 of electronic equipment.
And what this is gonna be, it's gonna be, some of this equipment will be mounted on one of our water towers to get the readings and to be able to transmit. This is also,
it's not in addition to.
no, that's all, everything's
Gary, that-
included in this
Who's
200.
gonna climb on top of that thing?
I heard you have
I
a lift
said the
truck,
blind man.
Yeah.
Your lift truck,
No,
biggie? That's all included in the final price,
and it's
but
priced per unit. So if we don't buy 1,100 units, we only get charged for 1,000 units as well.
this, the other one is the agreement for the 17,000 starting year 2.
Yep.
And then this is, this one here doesn't go because it also had water. And this also is capable of doing our water if we ever decide in the future to go with them on our water, which would translate into not needing anyone to read any of our meters. It would come out directly through the towers and everything into the billing system with Encode.
So how do we decide that we're compliant with the state bid law that anything over $50,000 have to have 2 bids?
No, it's actually 75 now.
75.
So it's the question as to, and that's what just, are you here from the company?
No.
What's
No.
that?
No,
Oh, I thought he was with the company, sorry.
he's a regular.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
so
the issue.
it just needs to be, and Mayor, if you wanna address that, what, is this, whatever this is it the only one that can be placed on our gas meters?
It's the only one that's compatible with what we can get and find that's capable of doing what we need to do.
Less buying new gas meters.
Huh?
With the other option would have to be buy gas.
Buy new gas
whole
meter,
thing.
buy the whole thing.
How
And
do
they do have that as well, but right now, we do have some gas meters that can get us by, but into the future, we will go to that gas meters as well.
So, because haven't we had to hang up in the past with the gas meters being a lengthy time out and getting the parts?
Yeah.
I mean, months.
And theirs is available, And again, Neptune is who we use now, we can use them for water and gas. Neptune is getting out of the gas business completely. They will no longer furnish MIUs for that. Water's supposed to be good. Yeah. I think, gas is secondary for them, water's their main thing.
So,
So Ms. Smith, is that verbiage
sufficient?
sufficient?
It's a,
But
so,
it don't
so the way
necessarily
it works,
state
and I'm not
they
trying to
sole
put,
source.
it is, it's a finding on the
Yeah.
minutes, and the way that you're covered is finding, so, I mean, what I'm hearing is the mayor saying there's no other, without going out and purchasing brand-new gas meters for all of this. If you wanna do what you're doing, this is the only product that is available to do this, which
To
is
do this, to work
from-
with the billing system we have, to work with the meters we have,
from who is that?
everything.
Salem or Census, and they're,
Mhm.
you know, they only have, most people have regional reps, so that's the only place that you can get them from.
Couldn't we just go out, I mean, if this is the only compatible system and we put it out for bid
At least you go out for bid.
and I mean, even if you
regardless.
get another bid, if it's not compatible, it doesn't meet the requirements and specs, at least we've done that process and due diligence and we have that.
On file.
And you can do that, I mean, you can bid it, you can write the specs, and then your issue that you get into there, Kyle, if you write specs and then and then you say that they're not, then you toss them out, then you can get, I mean, that's a whole different bid process that you have to have a legitimate reason for tossing them, but if this
If
is
it
a true sole source, there shouldn't be anybody that can.
Right.
Be the-
I'm
bid.
sure they'd be the only
So
one that would.
therefore, you're safe, I mean, if you shouldn't write, like, if it's a true sole source, then you go sole source, because if you're writing bid specifications that can only be bid for one person, then you're
trying
not
to gear it
helping
toward-
yourself, if that makes sense.
Not if you're saying you're writing it for the particular meters that we have, though.
Mhm.
I have to
Yeah.
bid
Yeah,
for
but
meters.
I guess what I'm saying is that if you're writing for something that's a sole source is a sole source. That's the only place you can get it from. That's the only place you can get it from. So if you write bid specs that only goes to this, what you're saying a sole source is, then you may as well call it a sole source, because if not, someone can challenge you and say, well, you wrote this just for that. So, I mean, I guess if it's a true sole source, I guess either way would,
It's gotta be just, it's
Fit.
gotta be compatible with meter X, Y, Z,
That's it.
right?
yeah.
Mhm.
And
Yes.
and if nobody's compatible except Celsius, whatever, then they're a sole source. But if there's other vendors that sell typical devices that would work, retrofit without, $10 million retrofit kits, right? Then it's economically not feasible to do. But again, I don't see a definitive Celsius or Season, whatever, they're just saying we're the only people that sell it, right? That, to me, it's not definitive, and it's a big purchase.
Yes.
So I'd like to at least do a little more due diligence to,
Okay.
personally, to make sure we're covered.
So do we
I
want-
agree. I mean, I would, even
just
if
don't
we
wanna go
just
to
write,
jail.
even if,
Not
you know,
today.
Mr. Lewis is saying, at least you write it and it has to fit our particular meter.
Yeah.
Then,
That's gotta
you
be
just never know. You might have some little company out there somewhere that says, yeah, we make those, but, cause I don't always find things for, electronics that I work on. But then sometimes later on I find it,
Yes.
But, I would just, with this dollar amount, I mean, I would just feel better if we just wrote it and that way, we covered ourselves in the bid laws and stuff like that.
Okay, so we wanna kick this back and
Yeah.
put it out to bid,
Or something, just, yeah.
or get a more definitive sole source leather.
Right.
Stating it's sole source.
And if maybe Ronnie can just write the specs and, put down, hey, we got XYZ meter, this thing has to fit this particular meter. And I've actually seen like, bid specs on architectural stuff, and they'll even list the vendor, hey, here's the vendor for it, boom, 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 And they say, hey, you can call this guy, and they have all the stuff.
Okay. So,
Action taken.
just be no action taken on that item for now, alright? Or you wanna deny it?
I mean, you have it on here as a motion, so. probably
Motion to
consider-
deny, agreement to purchase the advanced meter and infrastructure system,
Motion, Mr. Seal, to deny
Second.
B,
equipment controls.
second by Mr. Noblock. Vote to motion,
Aye.
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 aye, passes 5-0. Alright. C is motion to set public hearing for the fiscal year 23-24 budget and adopt the tax levy. Do you have a date on that, Mr. Riso, or?
The plan was to go for the 22nd, I think, the next council meeting.
And we're gonna have one more
On the reg-
workshop before
No, that would not, this would be, I would be accepting the budget as presented. then we advertise that, and then then you have a public hearing on it.
I have some concerns. I know several of us asked for a comparison of the payroll ordinance, with the 3%, 4%, and the 5%. I have not received those.
I
I
got that.
sent that out.
Yeah.
No, I didn't see it. I didn't.
You didn't give us a worksheet on it?
I sent the difference out. How
I'd
much
like to see
3%,
a sheet of
4%,
comparison.
5% is.
I haven't seen it. Well, I mean, I don't, did you just send it recently?
I sent the other day, you was on the email.
I haven't
Kyle
seen it.
was.
Oh, no,
Yeah,
that
it
was
was-
just a number.
was a
I
number.
like to
Oh.
go
Side
in
by
and
side.
figure.
Well, that's the number you asked, what the percentage was saved, going from 3%, 4%, 5%, that's how much you saved.
I mean, if y'all can pull those numbers that fast, it's gotta be in a worksheet already.
She does have a worksheet.
She had
Well,
three
can they
different
send them out? I mean, we asked for certain information and we're not getting it.
I thought you got it.
No,
I mean, you
Didn't
want
get
to
the
know
worksheet.
what,
One of the side-
you want to
Got the
know what the
numbers.
difference in pay rate was.
I got the numbers. I didn't get
Side
the
by
worksheet.
side comparison.
Side by side comparison.
It'd be 3 different worksheets, not side by side, but that's what you
Well,
want.
I mean, yeah, I can take them and look at them.
And where did we land? So with that, I think it was the difference from 5 to 4 is 41,000.
About
5 to 3
40,000
was
plus.
80, roughly 80. I'm not looking at it, but
Yeah.
80,000. But then we were discussing with the additional 3 officers, where was that pulled from? I think that was the last budget hearing, was a couple different options. Where did we land on where that's going to be coming from the budget?
We took and there was one mistake that Sissy found in there, I think with insurance on the fire department, saved some money, also took some other out and just rearranged some things. Got rid of the VRBO.
And not taking money out the reserve?
We still taking 100,000 out of the reserve. But we're also looking at adding another $100,000 this year to make that difference up. So essentially, it would be the same as putting 400,000 in next year into the emergency reserve.
Okay. So VRBO's taking out that 100,000. Okay. We're still taking 100,000 out of the reserve, and that's gonna fund the 3
You're just
officers'
reducing it from
position.
400 to 300
Yes. mhm.
next year.
So, yeah.
But trying to put that with the surpluses from this year, trying to throw more money this year into it.
Okay.
So what's the
Higher than
projected
expected.
surplus from casino revenues that's gonna be added to it at the end of this budget year?
Well, it wouldn't be from casino revenues. I mean, casino revenues
We've
are
already
basically,
taken 400,000
we've already moved
out.
400 from that. That's already been done this year, back in earlier part of the fiscal year.
This 100 would
But-
probably be payroll
But in
savings
addition,
and
it's
different
payroll
things.
savings and other things that we're kind of projecting that, hey, there should be a surplus. We should be able to stick more money in reserves
Okay.
this
The
year.
emergency reserve.
Emergency reserves, but possibly even the other reserve.
And I thought about this a lot. I think we need to do the 5% just because inflation, the cost of living so much. I think we need the officers for safety.
Yeah.
And to be more proactive and not just reactive. We need.
Well, I agree what you're saying,
Yeah.
but in the last 2 years, that equates to a 22% pay increase. You get another 5, that's 27%. And
22% for
that's
who?
far out exceeding the inflation rate.
22% for who?
The police, they got
Okay.
6, and then they got 16 last year. And now you're gonna add another 5 on top of that?
Well, if you look where they're at on the totem pole, they're still very low paid compared to everything except for a couple agencies in Hancock County and maybe Pastor Shan.
Well, I've received no comparisons. Y'all sent out no comparisons for this year.
We sent them last year and we didn't even get up to where we was last year. I mean, we can send them,
Yeah. So.
but we sent them last year and the raise last year didn't get them to where they were compatible with other cities.
Well, there's still, and a credit to the chief, I think we've got 0 vacancies right now.
Yeah.
So I think that's leadership. I think it's rate of pay, I think having the new police station is gonna pay dividends as well. But, I think last time, what CPI, the inflation, I think was, 4.1%, I think predicted for 2024. I think it was right at 4% last year. So, I mean, I get that, but, yeah. Where did we land on that? I think it was discussed last meeting about the 17,000 for any kind of extracurricular. I think it was talked about fireworks or whatever that fund may be for city
Took that
events.
off.
It's
Took
not
that-
fire, it's just for,
No.
for,
Events.
promoting
17.
the city of Bay St. Louis.
Yeah, but you said you had private donors for that?
So far, when we put on events, Bay St. Louis sponsors 0 events. Not one event in Bay St. Louis.
Well, we sponsor Cruising the Coast.
You give that money to tourism and they give the money.
Well,
So essentially we do, but we don't. But we sponsor nothing else in the city. We don't, we don't take ads out in magazines, that can promote the city. We don't do anything.
I thought we looked at like, at MML, looked at Christmas decorations to put down
Yeah.
Main Street and different
But
things.
we don't do anything
that,
to
too.
promote ourselves.
Just start doing Christmas decorations.
Well, no,
and
that was,
stuff.
we talked about doing a rooming tax, which wouldn't even affect local business owners or, residents. And you could do that, adding the sales tax to rooming
And we're
rooming
looking at
rate.
that, we're looking at that as well, come this legislature. We're looking at trying to tax, license VRBOs, short-term rentals.
Well, the only thing, start taxing your business owners. And again, they're also property owners. So, I mean, they're already getting hit with a full ad valorem tax and you want to add something on top of that. So I'm just throwing that out there to you. I mean,
Right.
just saying, go back to the taxpayer every time y'all want to do something. I mean, it's just gets,
but again,
inflation is hitting everybody else.
Whether you can call it a business or not, it is a business. Whether
I know it's a
it can't
business.
be called that, but again, we're not the only ones that does that, but to get a handle on what we have, other cities, Ocean Springs charges $500. Pastor Shan charges $400 for theirs. Now, Pastor Shan don't have as many, I don't know how many Ocean Springs, but that's what they charge.
Didn't Ocean Springs
That-
limit
That
their
also goes back into
Number, you mean?
the police department that gets all these extras in here on weekends. Our population, as they have stated many times, it may be 10,000 today, come this weekend, it's 12, 15,000, with all the other. You got 500 of them that you know of out there right
Well,
now.
then that just goes back to, hey, if we really want to do something that'll generate the most bang for our buck, and that's adding, a sales tax on rooms. And, it doesn't affect the property owners. It doesn't affect residents.
In reality, it's no different than that, then adding the tax as well, it gets passed on.
Yeah, but that's for people that come visit the city.
And it's getting passed on to them.
And that's okay, because every time I go out of town to a
Time you go to
volleyball
Disney
tournament,
World, huh?
I get hit with a 14%er, man. And I was like, wow.
Yeah.
And that's just, that's
And again,
standard.
it's something that's passed on to the
Yeah.
tourism that's coming in. And again, when you promote the city, you bring people to the city, which helps.
Yeah,
all
and
your
I'm okay, I
short-term
get what you're
rentals and
saying, but
everything.
I'd rather do it without affecting our local property owners or, because many of the
No matter what
VRBOs,
we charge is gonna affect them. And how we charge them is just gonna be passed on to the people coming in town. Whether it's through extra taxes, through it's a license, through no matter what it is, it's gonna be passed on.
And I think they get
You're not gonna
breaks.
take it out your pocket and pay it and lose that $100, whatever it costs. You're gonna pass it on over a 12-month period, 52 weeks, whatever it is, $10, that's like extra $5.
And I don't
whatever
think
the fee is.
VRBOs pay it, but I get a bill every year for each building I own. For the TV on the wall, the desk on the ground, I pay $300-400 per building in personal property tax. They're not going to tax nobody on their furniture in the VRBO because it's not considered a business. So they get
You know,
exempt
one of
from
the
that
things
tax.
too
So they
with
get,
this,
there's
it
breaks
also
that they get
provides-
to operate that a
Yeah.
regular business in the commercial district
Right.
does not receive.
Yeah, and this
Yeah.
is gonna give an
Just-
opportunity to take and have these things. I know Ocean Springs, we got information from Ocean Springs, Pastor Chan, to go out and do checks on these when they get these, to make sure when they advertising, hey, we can sleep 16 people, is parking available, is beds available, is sleeping in the garage on an air mattress, all this, when it comes in, it's gonna help regulate also through that, how many can stay there, it's to make sure that they have that tax number, I guess what it is, and all that as well, to make sure they are paying their taxes on it. You
Well,
know,
I
again,
just caution you all when you have this conversation to be very careful when you're talking about a permit fee versus taxes. Because you can charge a permit fee, but your permit fee has to be tied with what
Well-
your cost is, and you have to have a legitimate reason to charge that permit fee. So whether it's your inspections, your administration, whatever it costs for the city to go out and, do it. And so, because if you don't have that and you're not justifying your costs as to why you're charging your permit fee, whatever that may be, whether it's $25 or $2,500, whatever it is, you have to have a legitimate reasoning for that. Because if you don't, then it's viewed as a tax. And you don't have the authority to tax. You have to go to the legislature if you want to set a tax. So I've heard a lot of terminology passed around tonight.
Oh, yeah.
And so for your own protections, there's VRBOs, you can do a permitting fee that is related to what the city is going to do to regulate and control these things.
Yep.
Or there is taxing, which you have to go to the legislature and get authority to do so.
And you talk about
and-
sales tax.
And either, yeah, and either way, it's
Any sort
something,
of
you know, we
tax,
need
you've
to
gotta go to the
workshop,
legislature.
you know, and put time into it and all, and again, you know, legislature starts up, we hope to have a proposal on the table for the, you know, the bed, you know, tax, 2%, 3%, 1%, whatever that is as well.
I can't hear you, Mike.
We're also look at, you know, come this new year with legislature, you know, last year it didn't get pushed through and all with the local private, to create that local private again like we had in the past to maybe try to get that, you know, the extra sales tax and all coming from your bed and breakfast.
The lodging tax of like
Yeah.
3%, Mr.
Yeah,
Think
but
Lewis.
either way, it's gonna be
You're-
passed on, you know,
Yeah.
to,
Okay.
to the visitors or whoever's staying in them.
Listen, I know council members had expressed an interest in not having that as be part of the budget. That way that we estimated $100,000.
Yeah.
Was not, the budget was not dependent on that.
Exactly.
And so that's a goose egg now. It's a
Mhm.
zero.
Yes.
Yeah, well,
You know,
because it
it's
wasn't
been
passed.
removed.
Yeah.
You can't,
Correct.
you can't count revenues. You
They all
can't.
asked for it to be removed,
Right.
and that was removed.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Again, and still being budget neutral, so it's still,
it's a zero line
Zeroed
item.
out.
So we
Zero
need to have that
dollar line.
workshop
Zero.
on VRBO again
that's a whole
later
nother.
on.
Yeah, I think that's, I
I think
think
that needs to be a whole
discussion.
nother ballgame for y'all.
To get back onto the
Onto the budget.
Budget.
the budget, the 17,000, I drive downtown every day. I don't think we have a tourist problem. I mean, I think tourists know about Bay St. Louis are coming, and if we were to pay in the budget with taxpayer dollars, I'd like to see a definitive plan at XYZ. This is how we're gonna get the word out there. This is what the plan is, other than we might do fireworks or Christmas decorations. Again,
And that's something that would have to come to council to be approved and, you know, to decide on.
Some other questions that I had on the budget. I noticed that we have, let me see if I can pull it up. On my email here. Let's see. It'll take me a second. There it is. So when I look at these line items here, and I see, let's see, let me get the name here. Oh, I'm in the wrong one. That's still revenue, expenditures, here we go. So I see, like huge fees for software maintenance agreements. And for the council, it's 12,000, and I just assume that's Granicus.
Granicus.
Okay. So then I scroll down and I see, even larger ones, software maintenance agreement for, the court department, and that one's
In code.
Encode. And then you have in general fund administration, and let's see, let me find that one. Oop, might have passed it up.
I think there was one in the building department too, you might have saw, but I think they're trying to get new software in there.
That's trying to get the new software, but again, that would have to come to y'all.
So
That's
you have,
looking at trying to do Municode.
you have
We covered that first
25,000
budget
in,
workshop.
in administration. What is that?
In code.
So you have even a larger amount, like 35,000 in another department.
Which
Police.
one? Police have, it is whatever their software, just Caliber, I think it was Caliber. Caliber?
Approved by council.
That's for, we just approved that recently for their annual.
That was all approved, that one.
So you
One of the
have,
things
in the
that we-
permitting department, you have the software maintenance agreement for 35,000.
That's the one would try to put together the Muni code that allows them to do online permitting, online payment, and going out into the field. That has not come to y'all yet, but that's what we're trying to get to in the next fiscal year, is to let them have a more upgraded software.
So it can do
But-
inspections in the field.
Otherwise, right now, they're just using Encode.
I thought we approved something for them this last year.
We
didn't do
approved
that.
something
Just
that
the
Enco
copy
was
here.
supposed to come out with and never did, I think's my
That was
understanding.
several years ago,
Yes.
Enco
they
was
tried.
supposed to-
And they've never,
It's like Encode Communities or something.
supposed to have a new tab or something they was gonna create for the building department to, we bought the iPads and
Bought
everything
the
else and
iPad.
it never came to fruition.
Nope.
They never did develop it. Just what I was told from talking to the building department. So, and I think they need something more state-of-the-art than what they operating on, so.
Well, it also is just cut from a customer service perspective. They could,
Oh, yeah.
a resident could go online or a contractor can go online, fill out their form, submit it, pay for it, and then have the permit be processed. But we're not there yet.
So,
Yes.
so Mike, in streets and public works, you have 8,500 for software maintenance agreement. Which one is that?
So City Works is
City
getting
Works.
split. That's, we just approved that for the annual agreement before August, or it was July. It renewed August 1, and that's being split 7,500 or so, I want to say, to Public Works and 7,500 to utilities.
Because you got parks and property maintenance, and you have software maintenance agreement for 10,000.
Under,
I mean, it's adding up to like $160,000 in software maintenance agreements.
possibly, I mean,
something's already,
a lot of this Uncode and all that, all
building
that's been in
is
place.
something we're looking at and possibly adding.
So these haven't, a lot of these haven't been implemented, but you're putting numbers on them.
Just the building department has not been implemented. That's not, we have not
Police
gotten
has
that in front of
already been
y'all.
approved.
Police has, y'all been using Caliber for years.
Yeah, I understand the police department. I remember when that
Encode,
came
y'all
in.
been using for years.
I know
City
that.
Works was
Atticus.
new a year ago. That was part of the, looking
So
to
how much
outsource.
does Encode cost?
I don't know off the top of my head. But it's getting divided between those departments.
So last year it was in one bucket though, right?
Yes.
That's
It's
one of the
just
things we're
split
trying
out
to do,
right
is split
now
it to different departments
each
and to add
department.
more counts.
So Encode
that's
was in the
giving you more detail.
$150,000 range?
No,
I wouldn't say Encode's 150,000.
because you got the police, that's 35 coming out of that. You have another 30 or 35, whatever, the building, that's 70 right there. That's not in code that we have right now, or considered that.
I know you got
But the only thing
Granicus and
that's new, Gary,
Planology.
is the idea of trying to add a new software for the building department. Everything else is already in place
Huh.
and under contract.
Public Works, Utilities is under contract. Court Department's under contract. Council's under contract.
Harbor.
Administration's under contract.
Okay, just needed clarification on it. So are y'all gonna bring us something on the building department soon, or is Ricky, I mean, what are you gonna do with Ricky? I mean,
We're looking at
y-
the software. We've
are y'all
looked at several-
advertising to replace Tommy?
Ricky has taken that over, and we're advertising for, inspector's position. We have a couple people that is put in. We also have a part-time person, maybe wanting as well. Ricky has been able to catch up on a lot of things with some overtime as far as, the prints and everything goes.
The only big thing, Mike, I never did did not find $100,000 that we took out of the budget for repair and maintenance outside. code 01-300-635.
What
Public
department are you
work,
looking at?
streets, public works, repair and maintenance outside, we took $100,000 out of it, and it's not, I can't find where it's been divided into other places. You was gonna look for that.
Yeah, 21 you had 104, 22 you had 104. Current budget's at 95, year-to-date's 47,000, and this budget's zero.
Yeah.
What number,
So-
Doug?
Page 16.
Yeah, 36, 360, 635. So we just need to understand where, I understand we're breaking everything out, trying to have their own cost centers for their own buildings, right? But I don't see any repair and maintenance for police, fire, admin, council, and maybe it was
Oh, we
somewhere
don't
else
have
and I
any
just
for
don't know
police.
where it's at. We just wanna make sure we got money to fix the roof or
Yeah.
whatever we need to do. Or did we take that 100,000? We just need to look for, we just need to have something to
Yeah.
budget for repair and maintenance, whatever that,
Yeah.
Yeah, we created, or Sissy created a department that was for kind of facilities.
Okay.
That if it wasn't,
Doug, some of
this
that
building or
also
something
is
is
broke down
tied.
into your elevators, generators,
Mhm.
in different departments as well. That is something new, it's broke down with expenses.
And I notice you don't have anything in blighted properties.
Went from 3,000 to nothing, I think.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, this year for our blighted properties, we've used our staff to go in and do it, and there's one that's, I think on,
Yes,
that y'all just approved for a public hearing that would probably be back using our team.
okay.
So you get 18,000 then on page 11.
So when you have repairs outside equipment at 40,000, which repair and maintenance outside, what's the difference?
I just didn't know what it was, right? I just saw $100,000 missing, and I know you're
From the
spreading
budget.
everything out, so
Yeah.
do we have that 100,000 in budgeted this year to maintain elevators, gas units,
Yeah.
whatever, or roofs, right? Is that
Fire
including,
suppression.
is that including roofs?
Mhm.
Building, right?
And-
So that 100,000 hidden somewhere in our budget, that it's still there.
So one of the
have-
comments I would tell you is, when you look at total contractual services,
Mhm.
okay, that's gonna be, let's call it all the 600 accounts.
Okay.
When the budget's approved at the summary total contractual services, so that's your number. The details that go between all these individual accounts that make up that total, you can move money between those I'm gonna call it the 600s. So if you spend on streetlights is under budget, the other one's over budget, you can't go at that, I'm gonna call it the summary level, okay? So, just because it's maybe not in one, it can stay between the 600s. If that makes sense to you? Or no? So I feel pretty good about it, is my comment.
Make me feel good about it.
Yeah.
That's my comment.
But-
Yeah.
I understand we're trying, the mythology, but I move $100,000, I'd like to see 10,000, 10,000, 10,000, 10,000, 100,000. I can add them up. Can't just say, well, it kinda, hey, I'm not a budget guy, right? I've just got a question on where the money's at and, are we covered, right?
Yep.
And I'm about running out of candy. I wish you'd hurry.
Uh-huh. So,
Doug's eating candy?
Yeah, I know, man. I'm just like.
can you send us something on that when
coughing it down.
it might have been dispersed too?
Yeah.
You can go
Yeah.
back on that.
Yeah, I'd have to give it to
Okay.
Sissy, but yeah.
And,
We need a public witness at another workshop.
well,
Yeah, I'd like to have one more, just so, if anyone has any last minute questions before we just go straight and approve it, but,
okay. If we, when we set this
you
public
can poll
hearing,
the council,
yeah, if we set this public hearing, when do you have to start advertising?
I mean, once you accept the budget, that point can't be changed. So if y'all wanna have another budget hearing, remove that and don't
Yes.
approve.
Okay,
How much,
That
how
line
far in
item.
advance we gotta advertise?
that's my
2 weeks?
question.
You basically need a couple of weeks of public notice.
So September 30th is our
So
deadline?
we'd probably end up having to have another probably special meeting in there. So we have to approve the budget, be done, adopt it before the September 15th.
15th. 15th.
September 15. And then we have to go,
Well,
Only once a week. So you got 2 weeks there. So,
next to
Put it in Sun Herald.
so if we have a workshop this Thursday or something and
I'm good.
finalize everything, huh?
I'm good with Thursday if y'all wanna come back.
I'm out of town.
Um,
I mean, I've went through the budget. I've sent my questions in.
Yeah.
And my last one was the $100,000 of, I did a spreadsheet on it, 2%, 3%, 5%
mhm.
pay raises. You know, it's a tough environment out there, and I think we need to continue to, we've neglected our employees for 23 years or 20 years, I guess. And I think it's time to pay them for what they're worth. So I have no problem moving forward with the proposed 5%. It's a tough environment out there.
That's where I'm at, and
Tough.
even though we gave them a lot, we still could start losing 'em if we don't stay ahead of the curve a little bit locally, you know, especially in the police department, so. And I think we're getting them, well, we're recruiting certified officers too, not somebody we gotta spend 6 or 8 months sending to the academy, riding around, getting training before they actually get to be patrolling by themselves, so. And so I'm good with the 5%. That's just mine, but if y'all wanna have another
The
meeting.
inflation rate in 22 was 8% in that area, over 5% in 21. This year here, 6%, 5%, 6.4, 5%, 4%, about a 5.3 average so far this year
Mhm.
is what it is. And again, you know,
And I don't know how they get that, 'cause I look at some things I used to buy and it's doubled in price.
yeah,
It hasn't been 5%, it's been double.
you won't, yeah, you're way past 5%.
Yeah,
Well, fuel's on the rise.
yeah, $3.20 a gallon for the gas
I paid
again.
$4.59 for premium yesterday.
Yeah,
Did what?
$4.59 for premium.
Premium gas? Where?
so,
Getting Sue's.
y'all wanna
Non-ethanol.
try Thursday to, Go over it
Non-ethanol
again?
and all that?
My bike.
Mr. Seal won't be
Oh.
here.
No,
but
but 5
You
gallons.
don't need more
Still,
time.
you can go to Harvard, get
Yeah.
it cheaper than that.
Thursday's good with you?
Mhm.
Okay, you good with Thursday, Gary?
I'm good with Thursday.
Okay, I'm good. Y'all go with Thursday to meet back and do we want to just recess this meeting to Thursday, or do we want to?
Yeah, that way we'll be able to vote.
Yeah, I mean, that's what. would that
I'll
be
just give it
better?
a one more look-see, you know.
Okay, all right, so we'll just recess this meeting till Thursday night to review the budget one final time. Okay,
Good.
all right. Okay, anything else, Mayor?
No.
We got bogged down there, sorry. Nothing else? Think of something, just let us know. Council business, A, public discussion for SRF loan for water well.
Yeah, I asked that to be extended, in case give anybody who wanted to talk about it to bring it in, so.
Anybody here to discuss the SRF proposed loan for the water well? No.
So just for everybody to know, we're gonna add a new water well in the city. We're at 85% capacity at the moment. No, wells are old, and, so this loan would be for about $2.6 million. And there is a possibility we might be able to get this, paid for through a grant. But that's not cut in stone. But, I just wanted everybody to be realizing that. And, they wanted, because of the type of meeting we had the other day, and, you know, just wanted to come up in one more meeting, so.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Chisels are out.
And I would
Yeah.
just add on a comment with that, is that I haven't officially applied and
No.
taken the loan. This is
Right.
just taking it through the processes.
Yes.
No.
And we've actually stopped it, but then proceeded because of the possible forgiveness that Doug went to a meeting on. And it came out that, hey, this might be able to be forgivable.
And if it's not
Um,
forgivable, we're gonna have
And
to
we will
have
know
surgery.
that before y'all take any action, so
Yeah, we will.
you'll know if it's forgivable or not.
Right.
And whether you wanna proceed or not.
Yeah.
Hopefully in September is what we're
Right.
kinda thinking in timeline. So it's not guaranteed.
Yes.
Yeah, we're not
Right.
making a loan
That-
tomorrow.
Yeah, that loan is not guaranteed that we're doing it right now.
Right.
Yeah.
I just wanna make sure, that's how y'all left it, just,
Yes.
we're kinda going through this process to see.
And once we find out,
it's free
let's hope
money.
it's forgivable and we can move forward, because end of the day, we're gonna have to find some way to get more water.
You buy it from the county.
Some way, we gotta find a way to
We'll
get
buy
more
the well
water.
or the water tower from
And,
the
and
county.
that was the other option, if it's not,
Eminent domain.
I'll
That's
pick
what
if
that
the
back
loan
up
is
if I
not
need to.
forgiven,
Yeah.
that's something.
Eminent domain.
Kinda let it slow down a minute.
Yeah, I just
Yeah.
want, I think,
Exactly.
if it's not forgivable, I think y'all have to have a hard conversation, is that something you
Oh,
want
yeah,
to do?
something, we'll look at
Then you
that.
really gotta look at
Do
your
you wanna
pros and
spend the
cons, go this
2.6,
way or
do
go
we
that
wanna
way.
buy from the county?
Yeah.
You know, there's options available that can be.
Definitely gotta explore all our options
Yep.
though, just to make sure we stay
Yep.
with enough water supply. B, is motion to approve the health and sanitation ordinance 661-08 2023 of the city of Bay St. Louis, Mississippi regarding certain discharges. I think Caitlin sent that to everybody. You have any discussion on that, Mr. Lewis? or
No,
Okay.
no, this is just, going, piggybacking off of our last brief discussion we had, at the last meeting. Thank you, Ms. Smith, for researching, getting some of this information, but it would essentially just, regulating any certain discharge that would be unhelpful or offensive, to any neighbors, neighboring businesses, business to residential, whatever those offensive liquids, chemicals, dust, paint, whatever that may be, and then give us an ability to enforce, if we can validate that it is indeed causing, harm based on our ordinance or actually, anything that's detrimental discharge, and then give us an ability to enforce that where we don't really have that right now.
Yes, sir. Okay.
Yeah, so what we have here appears to be out of order, as far as the ordinance itself. There's deficiencies or mistakes in the ordinance that should be corrected before we adopt it. It refers to Bay St. Louis as a police jurisdiction, which we're not. We're a city. Care how you argue it, we're not a police jurisdiction, so we need to update that. Then some of the, so we have a 28-7 is defense and prosecution. First line says 28-1-5 through 28-1-7. Our ordinance is 28-5-6-7, not -1-5-6-7. I believe that's wrong. It goes down to use of spark protectors is 28-8. Then it goes down to 28-9, penalty for violation of chapter. So it seemed like the spark thing should move up ahead of the prosecution or defense and prosecution to make it lay out correctly. So semantics, right? Seemed like your defense and prosecution should be second to last, then your penalty for violation should be last. But yeah, and I think I would like to see that just updated properly, and then resubmit it back for approval.
On that last comment, Councilman Seal, you talking about the penalty needs to be last. It is last.
It is, but so if you give 28-7 is defense and prosecution, right?
Oh, I
And then
got it.
28.8 is use of spark arrestor. So
Yeah,
should
bump
those
that
two
down.
flip?
Yeah, probably
right?
bump that down, yeah.
Yeah. So, and then to get to 21-1-28-1-5 on 28-7. Because is that
Yeah, just
that's
take,
referring to this ordinance, right?
yeah, it is.
Not
You should
another
take
one,
the
so
one
that's
out.
incorrect. And then take the police jurisdiction out. Wherever the hell it says it at. My edits go away when I close it. 28-8. Third sentence, the end, pressure steam boilers within residential business sections of the police jurisdiction of the city. Most ordinance say the city, within the city of Bay St. Louis. So. I know, but that's Louisiana talk.
Isn't all of Bay St. Louis in police jurisdiction?
Yes.
So should all our ordinances be like that? They all should be the same. I know it's can, but we can change it correctly. Right? Don't give us stuff that's not correct.
So,
We had a lot of people look at this stuff.
mhm.
Yeah, I was wondering,
Bless you.
just look,
Bless you.
that's correct. The bottom article is correct. For penalties, I looked at that code.
So with some of these just being a verbiage or sequential order, really nothing of the substance, can we, with those changes recommended by Councilman Seal, proceed with approving? Okay.
Make an ordinance out of it. Yep. Right.
Corrections made.
So bring it back next meeting.
Okay, so, you can probably do that by Thursday.
I just told them what you are. I shouldn't be the only one finding these changes. I mean, we got 3, 4 people that's looking at this stuff, and we continually getting, and I know people have a lot of stuff to do. I have a lot of stuff to do too, but I sit at my table at night and go through this stuff. Right? And
We all
shouldn't
catch
be
stuff,
getting-
we catch
We
different
shouldn't be
stuff.
getting
Mm-hmm.
errors
Yeah.
and stuff that we're approving.
I'm sure
sorry.
there's been errors that have been caught before that you didn't catch. That's why we
Hey, I
have
have.
eyes
I've
on
made a
this.
mistake
So, I mean,
before, but I've looked
toot
at my
your horn
stuff.
on that is,
I'm not tooting my horn, but people need to look at just stuff that are given and putting on our dockets. That's right.
Yep, all right.
Not tooting the horn, this is facts.
Yes, sir. All right, so,
Okay. Okay, if that's right, that's why I asked, if that's correct, because it just didn't look correct. Okay.
okay. So,
Yeah, it needs to be the same as City of Bay St. Louis, is whatever we have our ordinances at.
okay. It's not wrong.
Vote on it.
Then the,
Yep. Yes, just out of order.
first one too.
It's not correct.
Yeah,
From a process hazard specialist, it is not correct. It's out of order. In a procedure, you can't have number 1, number 5, number 7. So it's still in procedure, but it's not sequential, it's not correct.
okay. You wanna just? All right.
Yeah, just, I know. So number 8 is okay afterwards? Well, that's why, that just didn't look right. That's why I was asking. Okay. We had this discussion earlier.
All right, so,
Not about this, I was just, no, we were just talking about a lawyer talking about this and a common person talking about this.
yeah.
We can explain away everything.
So, you're saying it's correct, as presented.
Vote on it. Vote on it, roll with it.
yeah, I mean, I would respectfully ask,
Yeah.
go ahead and, if,
You want to make a motion?
yeah, I'll go ahead and make a motion.
Okay, have a motion by Mr. Lewis to approve the health and sanitation ordinance 661-08-2023 for the city of Bay St. Louis, Mississippi, regulating certain discharge. Do I have a second?
I'll second with, discussion.
Second, no block with discussion,
So there's no changes, it's gonna go as,
as presented.
okay.
As presented. Okay, motion, Mr. Lewis, second, Mr. No Block, voting on it as presented. Any further discussion? Vote the motion?
Nay.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 4-1. Thank you. C, motion to amend the subdivision ordinance. I think there was some discussion on that, by a few council members to possibly add back preliminary plat approval to come back in front of the council. Is that correct?
That's correct. So it would be amending, I think in the procedure for the approval of preliminary, it'd be, we'd have to just look at 302.1 and 302.1-2, to where that would go back for approval of P and Z and city council. And again, it's just for checks and balances and ensuring that on our end, we know what was said is done. And then when we have constituents ask, or that neighbors have the ability to go to preliminary and understand what's being done, and they're doing what they said in the sketch that is, so that how that impacts their neighboring property. So I think it is something we would just do our due diligence in being able to understand and explain to the constituents, having them have opportunity to come as well to get those preliminary plans.
And I'm actually going to legally speak out and put on the record that I do not recommend this change, quite frankly, Councilman Lewis, for what you just said, because you're opening the door to a second, what is perceived as hearing for members of the public to come in and talk about something that at that point in time, unless you want to open the city for liability and challenge what your city engineer, the developer's engineer, your public works director, and the rest of the administration. So unless you as a council want to put yourself in a position of telling all of those people you were wrong, because at that point in time,
What's what we're doing now. It's no different to what it was done prior to the subdivision ordinances and having the preliminary come and being approved by the P and Z and council.
Well, so basically now what you used to call as a preliminary plat now is what the new subdivision ordinance call your sketch plat.
Let's get rid of the
And-
sketch. Go back to the preliminary.
Okay, so I think you're getting bogged down in terminology. So your new terminology is sketch plat. Your sketch plat has many, if all plus some more, of what used to be in your preliminary plat. So there was confusion as to what was in what was not in other, when things come back. So the intention was to clear all of this up. So now your sketch plat comes here, and that should be the concept that this board approves. That's gonna show your roads, it's gonna show your elevations, it's gonna show your wetlands, it's gonna show your zoning, it's going to show your protected trees, it's going to show your surrounding property owners, your zones.
Drainage
what am I
delineation.
Lot
missing?
square footage,
Lot square
zoning.
footage, if any variances are needed to any of those lot sizes or any of the other parts of the subdivision, all of that has to be brought to you. So you are approving the subdivision, you're approving the number of lots in it, where the roads are going, you are approving all of that. What happens in the preliminary plat now is that is your engineering, that is your drainage, your installations, and then your final plat, which is still the final plat today, but this is where it gets blurry and how we've ended up in 4 years worth of litigation, is your final plat, that's when your subdivision is built. So they cannot sell a lot in that subdivision until a final plat. They legally cannot sell a lot in a subdivision until the final plat is approved. So you have to have all of your infrastructure
But when
installed.
have we ever gotten into a situation where the final plat, when it gets here, has been denied? I don't think we have.
Well, you can't, I mean, a final plat is.
So it's,
that
the work's
basically-
already been
so a
done, but at
final-
least in the preliminary, as you had just mentioned, that the sketch, yes, you say you're doing this, you're going through that, but then preliminary actually goes through that checks and balances, and that way you have the ability for us to come back and validate, yes, that has all been done by our engineer, by our offices, administrative, so that, and that at least the citizens can have an opportunity to hear that and what was actually done. Otherwise, they just have to go to City Hall and I guess ask you guys what was done on the preliminary that they said they were gonna do in the sketch.
So my concern is there would be no grounds for a city council to ever deny a preliminary plat unless you're going to say, city engineer,
Right.
you didn't do what you're supposed to do, which then, I mean, I would hope that our city engineer or whoever the city engineer is designated for that project or Public Works Department, I mean, I guess I would hope that you would have enough confidence in your engineering department and your engineering team, because that's who's proving them. So if you allow this, if you bring it back to you guys, what you would be doing is saying, no, city engineer, no public works, no fire department. You've done something wrong. Sorry, developer. I'm sorry, developer, that you've spent $30,000, $50,000, $75,000 on fees, but
Because
I
that's-
don't agree with this. Well, Mr. Salvo, how do you not agree with this? What is your legal basis for this? Because I said so? Because your city engineer is sitting here telling you, your city engineer's already approved it. So that's where your problem is. So what it is the sketch plat is what was formerly our preliminary plat. That is everything but the technical side of it.
Right.
And Councilman Sealy called me
That's
earlier to
what-
ask
yeah,
some
that's what I was-
questions about some that have come in. Well,
Right. That's what we need to see. I need
what
to
you've
see that. That's
seen
what we-
is not, and
We'd have
the
to see it.
reason that
Don't we wanna
one
see
of
the
the
technical side? I
developers
mean,
pulled is because they didn't have what they needed.
Right.
The administration said, you don't have what you need, my recommendation is going to be to kill this because you don't have all the components on the subdivision plat that you need. So that's, you know, the concept, the lots, the sizes, all of that, whether there's wetlands, all of that comes to you on a sketch plat. So,
But how do you know if, from the sketch plat to the final thing that comes in, that nothing's been changed, like we've seen so many times, and it doesn't come back to us for final approval? And
they
I,
would be, so then your city would be violating its own ordinances. So then we would be subject to liability from that standpoint because they can't. So if the developer came in and said, hey, look, we got in here.
but then
and
it comes into the catch me if you can. And,
Well, I would hope, so then I'm just gonna.
and then
I'm
what's
just
our
gonna be- I'm just
recourse?
gonna
Once
point-
something's built, it's
Well,
done.
I would hope that you would fire everybody on your team that allowed for it to happen. Because at that point that comes in, if something deviates, so if the developer says, hey, I don't want, this lot can't be, you know, 110 feet like I've proposed, I need this lot to be 75 feet so we can do this, and our team lets it happen?
So our team can approve that without council approval?
No, that's what I'm telling you.
Nope.
So if they don't, if what's approved, if what y'all have approved is not what they ultimately put down, they have to send that back and start over. So in fact, you got more protections than what you've had. Because if they decide, you know, for some reason or the other, they wanna deviate from what they presented to you as a sketch plat, they can't do that. If any variances along the entire way, all of that has to come here. Any variance that has to be presented to you in a
Start over.
sketch plat. So basically, everything that you've known before is now on what we refer to as a sketch plat. One of the main components, and I don't like speaking about a lot of this because we still have a litigation hanging out there that I'm hoping will be dismissed, but it's still out there. What you were missing before was that middle component of who was doing what. Your previous subdivision plats just said, hey, you go hire an engineer. We don't care who they are. As long as they got that little stampy doodle and that you stamp it on there and say you're an engineer, we'll take it. So you had no oversight by who these people went out and hired or it's just that engineered stamp drawings. So they could find some one-hit wonder engineer and say, come in and stamp my drawings. And you as a city say, okay, because you didn't have any mechanism of telling that engineer or bucking that engineer or saying, so that's what this, and it also was a very weird component as to when it was accepted. Because these things should not be, you should not accept a final plat until every piece of that infrastructure is in, every road is paved, everything is done, and then you have bonding to make sure that it's all done right. So that's why we have subdivisions, and we have them all over this town, that for some reason a plat was recorded, but it has no infrastructure. So now, in fact, we're dealing with one right now, you've got lots that are in the middle of the woods on a city street, but infrastructure was never put in. So that there's no way that will ever happen again, because under this mechanism, if those streets are never put in, if the sidewalks aren't put in, the drainage isn't put in, you know, all of those different elements that you have to have, it never gets subdivided. They can never go to the Chancery Court and file their subdivision plat.
I want to make sure, I kept hearing along the process that we're streamlining it for developers. And so I want to make sure if that means
No,
that we have to.
Not true.
that's not true.
It said it in this
No.
meeting.
No,
I'm not
so-
making it up. The
so-
streamline for the, I'm just saying this, I'm not making that up. It was a meeting to streamline the process. And so if it means putting in another process that goes through us, but if we feel like we have the mechanisms now in place that will not only be just as good, if not better, and have better safeguards, I'm good with that.
Well, absolutely. So what streamlining means is it's
The process, the
it's
process
defi-
is
You're
what
not
it,
streamlining the process.
that, I'm
You're
just saying what it
streamlining,
stated in the.
this is what you do to the council, this is what you bring. Okay, what do I do now? This is what you go, this is what you go, this is when you go get your engineering team involved. These are what you do. So I wouldn't say you're streamlining, quite frankly, if anything, I think you're actually making it more complicated because now they have to go hire their engineer. They have to pay for the city engineer to also look at it and approve it. They have to pay for inspections, that's all included in the fees.
I don't think streamlining's the word, but I
Streamline
think,
is definitely not
But
the word.
streamlining
I think
was
we
the word that
tried
was
to,
used.
we tried to
It's streamlining,
save
that's the
cost
wrong
up
word.
front to the developer in
Yeah.
case it wasn't in case the idea wasn't approved.
Yes.
So don't go do your stormwater drainage, don't do all that stuff. 'Cause that's where you get expensive, is doing
Yeah.
stormwater studies and all those fees
There's
and
no point
engineering
in spending
fees.
$50,000 on engineering or whatever the case. There's no use in spending $5,000 on engineering
If
for
we're
a
not gonna
concept
allow a
that's never
50-foot
been
lot or
approved.
40-foot lot.
No, I get
We know
that.
that up front, so why spend all the money on the backside if the concept's not gonna pass?
And, maybe we could have done a better job explaining some of this because I've been sitting here looking at these things, revising them for years now. So a lot of these conversations that I've had or that I've looked at, you guys have not been privy to. So if we did a bad job of explaining what it is, or if there were questions to be had, then I take blame for that and I apologize. But that's what I want y'all to ask questions, and that's why I tell each of you all the time: call me, talk through something. I will talk to you for however long you want to talk to it, to make sure that we have it right, and also to make sure that you guys understand what we're
No,
we're doing.
and I appreciate, and I think that information that you just gave Ms. Smith, I think we all needed to hear, and I mean, because we've had discussions about, okay, we want to make sure that there are the checks in there, and if this suffices, not only that, but is in addition to, I mean, that is good information, and we all probably should have had something before before that vote, but,
Well, and granted, I will tell you, just in defense, that's why we send it out. That's why we say, because I'm not gonna insult each of your intelligence and tell you, I mean, I'm here, but I'm also not going to, I don't know what you have, and if you don't ask me questions, I can't answer them.
well, and like, and like any ordinance, we don't understand, even with the IPC, we had to go back and amend that, because there were some things that were missed, so we don't understand the magnitude of what that potential is until something is brought up, and then we need to go back and say, hey, is this something we need to revisit, so.
Yeah.
And what I will tell you all is when that comes up, call me.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times I don't hear these things until we're in this room. A lot of this stuff I can answer to you on a phone call. If I don't know the answer, I will find it and I will get it to you. But if I don't know you have the question, I can't answer it.
Yeah, I think some of that is, we may never get the perfect ordinance the first try. If so, we're gonna be like vacation rental, 10 years later,
Right.
still discussing it. Eventually, we gotta pass something
2013?
and tweak it as we go, because we're never gonna get a perfect ordinance to please everybody. It's not gonna happen, so
Well, it
sometimes
needs
we have to go
change.
back and forth.
So
Yes,
you should never let an ordinance, your previous
Just go forever.
subdivision ordinance was lingering around since 1960.
Exactly.
There are very few ordinances that should stay on your books from 1960 to 2023.
You mean things changed since then?
Things change.
Does this
Well,
align,
I've got
does this
some
align with a
subdivisions
lot of the
from 1960.
surrounding
Yeah.
municipalities? I know this is very similar to Diamond Heads, I looked at that one.
Yes.
I mean, is that,
And I will tell you, so when that was the focus point, and I do not want RISO to be brought into this because this was way before He Cave. And the reason that Diamond Head was used as a template is twofold. One is they had paid an engineer who is not our engineer, who has nothing, who actually doesn't do any work that I know for the city, to do it. And the idea was to try to have some consistency here in Hancock County. Wavelands are old too. Wavelands are also from the 1960s. In fact, we talked about that today with Waveland. And so it is very helpful, in my opinion, to have other people that you can bounce things off of. So by doing something that's very similar to Diamond Heads allows your building department, your code enforcement, your zoning enforcement officer, it allows them, a sister city, to pick up the phone and call and say, hey, how are you guys handling this? And the same thing with them, and you can also share problems. Because if you drive, and just for developers, let's be real, there's only a certain amount of people here in Hancock County or on the coast And so by allowing and having something that we have seen that is worked, but also to having our officials be able to call somebody and say, let's talk to somebody other than, quite frankly, me, it's a good thing for them to be able to do.
Yeah, I agree. And I asked Ms. Smith some of the same questions you just asked, Gary. I said, I trust this administration, but what if they're not the next administration and somebody wants to wiggle something around after we approve it? What's the,
Well, I mean,
how
our
do we
guys
catch
do
it?
a good job.
Yes, that's what I'm
But-
saying. I mean,
You know, sometimes they may be in a hurry or something and something gets past them.
yeah.
And
And
that's why it comes back to you, for a final check.
And I asked two
And I
ways the
just wanna make
developer.
sure. And let's face it, they got
differentiates from the
developers
plan.
out here that'll,
Well, that's when the
push the
recourse is,
envelope
we never
really, really
accept
fast.
it, and they lose $1 million or whatever they got tied up in it because they can't sell it. So if they do anything that's not
And
what
one
was
comment,
approved,
one comment I would make, that through this process over this last month or two, just in Jeremy's office, he's created a checklist for sketch plat. It has like 10 requirements that have to be on it. So basically, the idea is to put that on top of the application, and if the wetlands thing is not there, or the tree survey is not there, there's no check.
well,
And
one
at
thing,
that point, guess what? It ought to be rejected at
Mhm.
P and Z. It shouldn't even come to y'all. It'll be thrown back,
forget this thing.
and it shouldn't
And-
keep
and
going.
it-
It's an incomplete application, but there's like 10 items.
And again,
know.
we're also starting to attach the letter recommendation to yay, nay, that, again, it's a recommendation. P and Z doesn't have to go by it, but it's one of the things, I think if you look back at this past meeting on, I think Valentine Street request was not to approve,
Mhm.
because a lot of stuff was missing, and plus other things as well. So, attaching that letter, take it with a grain of salt. You wanna use it, you don't wanna use it.
And then-
That's both committees,
I think the only other thing we need to look at also, not the only other thing, but one other thing would be fines for removing trees that may be protected and stuff like that. Right now, I think the fine's low enough for somebody to go in there and cut them all to put a road right where they want it, because it's not a whole lot of penalty to it.
No.
I'll
the
give you
tree ordinance would
$5,000.
definitely
I
be-
definitely think that's something we need to amend.
I'll pay you $5,000, I'll destroy all the oak trees and I'll build my road and I'll still make my $1 million profit.
Yeah.
We don't want that.
No, your
mentality.
tree ordinance, we had to look at that a couple years ago, and I actually thought it was a lot stricter than what it was. There's a lot of loopholes and a lot of workarounds in that.
So we need to really hone in on that as our next ordinance.
put it on
to-
the agenda
to
for
look
next
at.
meeting.
Okay.
I think Jeremy might have that
Yeah.
coming.
After short-term rental.
Yeah.
Jerry might have that coming.
But
Jeremy.
getting back to what, Mr. Lewis was talking about, one of the biggest frustrations I've had dealing with, and I've dealt with every city on the coast dozens and dozens of times, is you'll bring a project to them, and then they say, oh, we can't approve it because of this. And you go and you fix it, and then you go back, oh, we can't approve it because of this.
Tell me one time.
Yeah, that's what I tell them. Why don't you just tell me everything that we need, or give us a checklist? That way I can get everything to you before this and not make 16 trips to Moss Point,
Well, and I think that's kind of where the streamline came from, because there's sketch plat, here's what you do, there's a checklist that's been formed along with legit checkbox that you check, along with comments, so if there's something, and it's also not, there's better communication as saying, because, and here's the part that I want to be very clear. Jeremy can't, Mike can't, Riso can't, I can't tell somebody you can't submit that. But we can tell them there's a deficiency, but there's going to be things that get to y'all that have deficiencies. Because, believe me, sometimes I feel like I'm beating my head against the wall. Like, didn't I spend 2 hours with you talking about this, and then you just accept the exact same thing? And quite frankly, there's gonna be parts of those that I'm not gonna spoon feed them how to follow our ordinance. They can hire their own attorney for that. And if they don't have it, then it's gonna be clear, you don't have X, Y, or Z, and it can be denied. And so it's like, yeah, we wanna work with people, and we wanna help people, and we wanna be friendly, but if they, and sometimes these developers are very pushy. Dealing with one right now that's very pushy. Okay, if you wanna put that on there, we've told you what you needed, if this is what you wanna submit, okay. And then deficiencies will be pointed out, and
We
it
just
will
deny it.
rock and roll.
Okay.
So on all subdivisions, that are brought into the city, our city engineer has to approve them? Or they look at them, or how does that work?
Yes,
Was part of Jason's fee that we pay him to review them?
not, well,
How's that work?
Well, that
I'm
didn't
tossing
work
that one
with
to you.
Shieldsboro like that.
Well, that's what I'm asking how.
Shieldsboro was different.
Well, cause there's under our older
Older
regulation,
subdivision
and they
ordinance,
have been Risa knows more about this one than what's going on, but they have been pulling building permits and checking, and I believe Jason has been inspecting
He's been out.
that and doing things differently with that phase 2 than phase 1, because I don't think phase 1 was ever, from what I can gather on that, I don't think the city had anything to do with it. In fact, I don't think the final plat was adopted until, like, after there were houses in there,
Yes.
Right.
This,
which never should have happened.
this council, 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, y'all
Well, there
had
was
to
still a lot
accept
of
the
Katrina
road.
stuff going
Huh.
on, and still a lot of Katrina, I think.
But
And
the
some of that
intent,
was before, but that was, I think, before.
the intent was once the builder has submitted their documents, especially, let's talk about stormwater. You know, that would be, they have to provide stormwater calculations, so, you know, pre versus post. And what's the net runoff in a 25-year, 50-year, that kind of thing.
Right.
Well, that's engineer talk.
Right.
That's details, it's running scenarios. Then Jason's office would have to go back and verify those numbers. Because sometimes engineers will put, or use like Louisiana rainfall instead of Mississippi rainfall. I mean, that happens. So that, all that's been saying in our subdivision regulations, and again, you learn from experience, exactly what rainfall you're using. You know, so that Jason then goes back and says, yes, I can agree with this other engineer, and this will work. Or, hey, you gotta change it, you failed to do X, Y, and Z, and he gets a list, then they gotta come back and check them. If they've come back and checked them, you know, it's kinda, that's why they get kinda 2 free
Oh, yeah.
reviews
Yeah, yeah.
to say, we're gonna review it, we're gonna send it back to you. Kinda like, again, Gary was just saying, we're gonna send it back with the list, send that back to us, we'll double check, hopefully get you a permit, go to building. You know,
Good.
but I've also seen it where an engineer had to pay, well, the developer had to pay 4 or 5 times, $2,000 pops, because that engineer just kept making changes and kept sending it wrong. We send it back.
Well, that'll teach them.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
if the city engineer, the city is on a subdivision, he's the engineer on a subdivision,
That
Do-
will not
Can't
happen.
be.
do they,
No,
they can't be?
No.
Will not happen.
Okay, so I didn't know if our ordinance says he can't be, because I didn't
That
see
will
that.
not happen.
Well, the ordinance does not say it's not
Can you
allowable.
look at me? That
I-
will not happen.
But you're leaving, you're going. 5 years, you're going, everybody in this room's going, right?
Then,
How do you again, if it's not, if thou shalt not, you can, at some point. It's 1960, right? The ordinance was written.
I'll be
subdivision.
glad to talk to you about that, but in executive session.
Yeah,
If
okay,
that tells
but-
you what you need to know.
Okay, but
I
if
think
it's
you can
not
also,
written, how do you manage it?
you can also put it in your engineer's contract.
Again, I don't know how, I ask you how it's managed, because I don't know.
I can tell you how it's managed.
You said you can't do it, Jason. Well, that don't mean a lot.
Okay, you're gonna have to explain it to me in executive
Yeah.
session. Now you have to.
At the end of the meeting. No, it's just right. It's,
Yeah.
if it's not written, it's not done.
Okay.
And
Yep.
it's gotta be written,
Okay.
or in his contract. It just is
Yeah,
contract,
that could
maybe.
be his contract.
Maybe that's
Yeah.
easy, right? Just as long as there's a
Contract.
stipulation somewhere.
You can't be.
If he's working on behalf of
You
the
can't be
city,
both
it can
sides.
be on both sides, yeah.
Right, that's all.
Agreed.
Just fix it.
Okay.
Will not happen.
Anything else on that, Mr. Lewis?
No, I'm good.
You good? Everybody good with that?
Yep,
now, Council?
Good.
All right. Any-
So what Doug was talking about is the same thing that you were talking about
That's
with the subdivision ordinance?
about,
So Doug's talking about
I think that's a separate,
You talking about engineers or you talking about the ordinance?
you were talking about engineering?
The subdivision ordinance.
Mhm. Yeah.
You just can't be the developer, subdivision, and the city engineer. And you could do it
And-
if a
and-
third
and-
party has to, if a third party has to be brought in, that's all. You just gotta define it.
Mhm.
He can do it. It's just,
We don't want him to
Okay.
do it.
well, again, a third party could be brought in. It just needs to be defined.
Okay. We'll take that up in the later discussion. Any old business, new business, Mr. CO?
Yes, I had, let me find my dang list here. So everybody got the email about the cargo elevator process.
Yes.
Do we, I don't even know, again, I've tried to research some of this stuff and it just really ain't a whole lot out there on regulation.
What is this?
It was,
Cargo,
it was about the
Josh.
death on Thanksgiving Day. Did y'all not receive that email?
I haven't gotten an email.
okay.
Y'all didn't didn't get it.
Yeah, it
I'll
was
forward it to you.
I mean,
So,
the man's son that emailed.
yeah, the man's
council.
son wanting us to try to get some regulations and inspections. I think the problem's gonna be is what is a cargo lift and what is an elevator?
cargo lift is
Because they probably
not
define it
supposed to be used to haul people up
for
and down.
human.
Correct.
Yes.
There's
So-
probably, if I had to guess, probably less than a handful or two of real elevators in the city of Bay
Right.
St. Louis.
And we couldn't go,
In
we couldn't
residential.
moderate that anyways. I mean, if it's a cargo on somebody's prop, how would we?
Well, when we, if we, do we permit, do we give them a building permit to install it? A cargo
They
elevator?
should, and it
Okay.
should be, yes.
And as long as we delineate,
I'm thinking the only thing we could do is accept one or two guidelines that meet
I don't know.
maybe some safety aspects for an elevate or for a cargo lift.
But that goes to I mean, you go to manufacturer, I mean, you can't get manufacturer guidelines.
Yeah,
and-
I don't
Yeah,
know what
yeah.
to do with this,
And
but
again, this has happened a few times
Right.
since Katrina,
Yes.
that we've had
Yeah.
some serious accidents. You know, this isn't the first one.
Right.
It's very unfortunate we have any,
right,
Yes.
but again, they're not made to haul
yes,
people up and down in.
Yeah.
And that's what they're used for 99% of the
yeah.
time.
So I don't, and I don't know.
I don't know how we can regulate it.
I don't know if we'd take, I mean, that'd be, I would think a liability.
Right, it is. I mean, it's, you know, yeah, I don't know, it's a discussion point, right?
Yeah.
You know, if you get a permit to put a cargo elevator and they sign a permit that says this is a cargo
I'm sure
elevator
that
only.
standard's gotta be met.
Yeah.
But do we have any? That's what I'm saying. Right now, we're gonna tell you a 2x12 can only span 17 feet per code, but you can go put an elevator lift in with one pulley, two pulleys, or one pipe, or four pipes,
I would
or
check
no
on
cage,
that.
so it
Yeah, I
can't
don't.
flip upside down.
Well, and another thing that I've
So I would
found-
think at some point there'll be some kind of guidelines we could implement for safety that might say there's gotta be four posts with rollers on it, or it's gotta have a chain elevator and not a cable, or just
and there's no safety latches that keeps them, like,
from driving.
I've seen people they just, break and
fall.
they just go straight down.
This one here, I think actually came off the
Flipped over.
rollers, flipped over and slung them out.
And I've seen, what was that one, Cindy's cousin, Art Kergison, they fell through the thing and broke the kid broke his legs.
I don't, it just,
So-
you know, it's, and I told.
Cause it was plywood.
How do we,
Yeah.
how do we permit them and what do we say, you know? 'Cause I told a guy, you know, I said, hey, this
It's
is,
something to look
this
at,
is,
I think.
these are cargo elevators only, you know, well, they sold it to us as personnel. I'm like, well, that's, you know, it's not the city's, you know, but
No.
when we permit them, and is there any way
And I
that we
think
say?
that's the one, Doug, that they're talking about that was on Washington Street that they no longer in business.
That
Well,
what, Gary?
No, this one wasn't.
Yeah,
This was a different one.
Oh, a different one?
and I don't,
I remember that one you
it's
talked
a
about.
discussion point. What do we, you know, is any, I don't know what the hell you do.
Yeah, so,
Right, you can't fix everything,
No.
But
And
you
again,
can't-
a real elevator,
can't regulate
only
everything.
one I knew about in the city is no longer there. It was
Mhm.
just removed. Why, I couldn't even tell you that.
yeah,
Look at water elevator over my area,
yeah. Okay,
hydraulic water.
just something we'll have to look at.
Yeah, I
and
just
see.
try to find out whatever, and do we have a specific permit for that? See if we got a permit for that, or we probably just
Well,
generic.
then you're gonna have to
There
have
is
building,
permits.
right? There is a,
Yeah. Yes, there is permits for sure.
just,
Yes.
yeah, building permit, I mean, just as they're specific for, I don't,
Maybe something you give it,
just, can you give some information on that and just kinda look at it?
yes.
I will.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Engineer stamp drawings and must be state licensed to install.
Okay,
Okay,
10-4.
Permits are a must.
Okay, yep.
That's on the elevators,
no,
on cargo elevators.
Okay,
Okay, yeah, just send some information, it'd be
Yeah.
good, thank you,
all
I'm
right.
good.
All right, anything, Mr. Lewis?
Yeah, just following up, Mayor, and I've gotten a couple, requests for it on Central and St. Charles. I know we were gonna try and pull some data. I know there's been a number of accidents. I don't know the exact analytics on it and just speeding. Do we know if that would support, based on that data, a stop sign there?
I know they're looking at that
Okay.
and putting it together. I think also, there's another one they're looking at as well.
In that area?
Yes.
Okay. All right. That's all I've got.
Be sure if we,
It's, the corner of St. Charles and Central.
be sure if we put a stop sign up, it just follows the regulations.
That's, we had asked for that,
Because
yeah.
we'd left the other ones up because, well, they're already up and they do not follow the guidelines.
Yeah, that's why I asked it out. Look for the analytics, make sure it's compliant with those regs, but also looking at if there's a number of accidents that were reported,
How many
in that
accidents?
area? That's what I wanna find
It's
out.
a- This is
That's why we.
a true question. So about trying to get the light at Washington Street, right? We didn't have a light there forever. Ask MDOT, how many accidents do you have to have before you get a light? We really don't look at that. We look at traffic flow, we look at this, you know, I'm like,
603
what?
shortcut.
do what? Yeah, how
Any
many, no,
accident,
they
it
don't
took
look at that.
Yeah.
You know, he
years.
told me, he said, oh, we look at the traffic flow, and I said, you don't look at how many freaking people's been hurt? No, that's just a, you know, like, all right, but yeah, you're right, it's crazy.
Longfellow's
You
works
could
like
probably
nothing
say
else.
besides a two-way stop, there shouldn't be a four-way stop in the city of Bay
Right.
St. Louis nowhere.
Yeah. The way it is.
What makes it,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
you're not there to, you're there to try to improve safety.
Yes.
Yep.
Yep.
And you can say it's gonna cause more accidents and this and that, that's all BS. If you're gonna run it, you're gonna run it no matter
No
what. I sit there and watch them every day run stop signs when you come to a complete stop and watch them go through,
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
you know, so.
Especially
again,
live on the street.
Yeah.
But Kyle, we're looking at that,
Thank you.
and I'll get that information. I know Alvin was looking into it and all, and trying to put the records together and all, and I'm not sure if they moved the machine over there yet to try to get the data,
Okay,
on that and all, so.
alright, thank you. That's all. I've got.
Anything else? All right. Anything, Mr. Zimmerman? Anything, Mr. Noblock?
I'm okay.
You okay? All right.
We'll roll back real quick. Fire
Yes, sir.
protection for the bathroom facility at the harbor. We talked about that at one of the meetings.
Fire protection,
At the bathroom facility that goes up under the ramp at the harbor.
okay,
We talked with Jason about that. And it brought attention when that freeway in Philadelphia burnt down, right? So if that bathroom facility catches on fire, could you damage the,
I think
ramp.
Jason looked into it.
well,
told
he
me
was gonna look
something,
into it,
but
and
I'll
he
find
wasn't
out.
here. But, you know, could it
Yeah.
fire damage that ramp and put it out of commission, and we're out $5 million with a ramp and can't get to harbor? And I don't know, right? But if I saw that fire and it was brought up, I need engineers, somebody to say, no, it can't never happen, and here's your letter.
Okay. I guess Jason will be at the next meeting, so.
Yeah.
All right, anything else, Mr. Seal?
No, I'm good, thank you.
I'm good. Mr. Cliff Rabelais, Public Forum.
I thought we was getting out here early, damn it.
hey.
You got 11 minutes.
Yeah,
I'm gonna talk about vacation rental tonight.
you got 3
I
minutes.
didn't come for
It
that,
started
but I
2
will
minutes
be
ago.
back for that one. I'll remind y'all that that's probably the golden goose for you guys. You just don't recognize it.
Yes.
Yes, we
A lot of confusion. I just heard, well, the preliminary sketch is so they don't have to spend the money up front, but they gotta have all the details with engineering data.
No. it's not-
No,
I said-
but somebody did,
I
so.
said- I said, so they don't have to spend the money on stormwater and the other parts that come in the second phase of it. Because if we're not gonna approve a 50-foot lot in concept, why make an engineer spend, or developer spend $100,000 on that part of
I-
the work
And I agree with that point.
that we don't do it? That's what I said.
But, so how much do they have there? Cause I was at the P and Z meeting,
sure
and
that's
they
not cheap
certainly
neither,
didn't
do they?
have what was
No.
described as they were supposed to have. Yes, they
Failed
did.
also in
But
recommendation.
the one on
what-
Third Street passed, and he didn't have any of that.
I don't think he had the
He was
trees.
just doing a subdivision split.
Yeah, but
He
he still
just
had the
split the
trees.
lot.
Yeah.
But it's still
But-
subdivision.
Yeah.
He didn't have drainage, he didn't have
Because it front, all,
driveway locations, he
all
didn't
the,
have any
all
of
the
that.
lots fronted an approved street is the difference. You already got your Third Street or your Central Avenue, that's
Well,
gonna be the street
those
that
lots-
they come off of.
I know those lots because I lived there.
Yeah.
Where's the
Yeah.
drainage gonna go?
Mhm.
Because it split, the high point is about halfway down that street, you know? So I guess that goes back to Kyle's point. At what point are we saying, yes, you're approved, now you can go spend your engineering money, and then he comes back and say, okay, now you're still approved? Or is there not a second place where you said, because quite honestly, guys, I was at that meeting and I like Jeremy, but he basically disqualified himself as being able to approve anything at that meeting.
Why would that be?
Well, he said, well, I'm not an engineer. I don't know how to look at that. Well, guys, I'm going to give y'all a quick hint. I am a degreed engineer. I don't carry a PE stamp anymore because I had 15 guys working for me had them. I know what drawings show. I understand beam lengths
Yeah.
and moments and forces and drainage. Jason Kniech and I kid each other because he went to Mississippi State and I went to LSU. But at what point do we look at all these details? We don't make them do all up front, but at some point you got to say, yes, now you've got the details. And it's approved. And what I'm hearing is, no, we give them approval and they're good to go. Where do we make the final approval? who makes it?
Well,
I was hearing it was an administrative approval from the guy who says he's not qualified.
No, Ms. Smith explained it that the engineer, the public works, the fire chief, the police chief, everybody's got the mayor, everybody's got to sign off, not Jeremy. Jeremy's job is to get the information to us.
Right.
His job, he's not an engineer, and his job is not to approve all that stuff. But his
Okay.
job is to get all the paperwork in order to present it to us to make a decision.
So,
Then it goes back, when I say administration, the administration being the city engineer, the developer's engineer, I mean, not, he's administration, but he's gotta put his plans in. But this is reviewed by all engineer, all public works, all fire department for street turnarounds, police department, who else signs off on it in administrative?
Maybe
I
the
know them
Public
four
Works, I don't know
department
if I
heads
heard
and
that one.
engineers,
as
they
you
got
guys
five
know,
people.
'cause you've been to the P and Z
Yes.
meetings, Josh and Doug, I know y'all go pretty regular.
Oh, yeah, trust me.
There's
ask me
lots
questions.
and lots of questions for these preliminary sketches
Yeah.
that,
So,
what I'm hearing,
yeah, so what,
they're not gonna be able to answer.
well, so, yeah, so what they're supposed to have, to go back to the checklist, right? That's the key, right? Because what we saw at sketch, it was, yeah, that's why I said, we need to discuss this. So for for sketch, they gotta have a topo, they gotta have streets, they gotta have delineations, they gotta have your lots. So they gotta have a packet of drawings that you see, you can thumb like
Yeah.
blueprints, trees, all that should be in your sketch plat. Not just a piece of paper with is my lots.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Right, Ms. Smith, is what you explained. That has to come to us to begin with. That's the sketch.
Yeah.
So that's our preliminary, because we're seeing all this paperwork.
Mhm.
The second phase is the technical detailed engineering about your size of piping, right? And I don't need to know. But as long as I get that first checklist of my lot sizes, my trees, my fall, my wetlands, as long as I can see that right up front, I'm good. Because I don't need the detailed engineering
Okay.
at the second phase. But if I can prove and show all the details the first phase, not just here's your sketch, right? Because sketch plat, like it's put on a piece of paper, but these are gonna be full-size drawings that you can look at your fall, your drainage.
Yeah.
So all that is going to be part of your sketch plat, not what we saw the other night.
Okay.
And
So that was my biggest concern is I need details. I don't wanna see, I wanna subdivide 5 lots and this is all I need. And
So when they're submitting that sketch, and they don't have that, we like you kind of made the reference, Councilman Albach, when you go into another city, they're saying, nope, you don't have this, you don't qualify even to go to P and Z, so.
yeah, that's through their planning and zoning.
Right,
Okay, I haven't even got to planning and zoning yet.
but
This
we're
is-
diverting them back, if they don't have the stormwater plans, the drainage capacity, whatever it may be, we're diverting back to, okay, you can't come get this sketch plat until.
And what you're saying, planning and zoning's gonna have to take a little bit more responsibility in making sure that they have this. They don't have to vote that day on these
Or they can say-
complex things.
Put it on
They
hold.
can say, hey, I
They-
wanna wait another
If
month.
they
Or
choose
deny-
not to bring the information to them,
What's that?
Deny it.
vote it down, they can put it off, they can make them come back with it.
Yeah,
you
planning and
Correct.
zoning has a
That-
lot of
it's-
authority.
It's up to them to bring the information that is needed to
your
P
3
and
minutes
Z.
is up.
And all. And again, Jeremy can tell them, hey, look, you don't have this, you don't have that and all, well, I still wanna move forward. That's their right to move forward. Don't mean we have to okay it, don't mean we,
Exactly.
Can
But
we
that-
have
They
a
don't have it in
checklist?
planning
And again,
zoning. I do
even if it
not-
comes here, we don't have to approve it, if we see fit not to.
I do not believe, and I would not recommend, I think planning and zoning needs to approve or deny. If somebody comes and they don't have the information, because planning and zoning is your public hearing.
Yeah.
When you get to the city council, the city council is not the public hearing. Your public hearing takes place at your planning and zoning. So council really is just supposed to look at the recommendation in the packet and say yes or no. We're not supposed to call up everybody in Bay St. Louis to come talk and have a full-blown public hearing, because your legal public hearing is at the planning and zoning process. So if it gets to planning and zoning says, I don't have this, then it's not meeting your subdivision guidelines, so they should deny it. Because if they table it, what happens is all those people that are here, even if they table it for the next meeting, all those people that got notice of that public hearing, it's them being kicked. So if they don't, and that's not fair to the people, if they don't have what they need to have, then planning and zoning.
Well,
decides
and that
it,
goes
and
back to
they
the
will.
zoning administrator. Zoning administrator needs to be a little bit more proactive
Well,
and say, hey, you
as-
don't have your stuff, they shouldn't allow them to go forward.
And that's exactly what happened with a recent development, and it didn't get to planning and zoning, they shut it down.
I just
They
don't know.
pulled it back.
Yeah,
and
because, I
said
mean,
you did not
they're
submit what you
saying-
needed to submit,
Look,
so it's
I've
it's
had
working.
these meetings. I have told developers, you don't have what you need to pass. Well, I don't wanna wait another month, I'm submitting this. That's fine. If you, that's what you wanna do, well, you go
Well,
ahead
that's,
and pass.
that goes back to what Diamond Head does, and they tell the planning and zoning, the administrator tells the planning and zoning
It's not a complete
chairman,
packet, huh?
we do not recommend this, and that does not happen here. And that's what
have
needs to
started that.
happen.
Yes, we have.
That's what the whole, what I was telling y'all earlier, that's what we
Since
now
that last
have.
time we started it.
There's two
No, but-
forms. You
So
can-
Jeremy's
He's
gonna
saying
make
in
a
the past,
recommendation if
it
something.
hasn't always been like that.
I know, we just,
But we have asked,
Wait, gotta get on the mic.
but now it will be
Hey, Mike.
attached to each
We've
one,
started that.
whether or not, we recommend, again, it's a recommendation, yes or no.
So,
Yeah, we had-
moving
There's
forward,
a
a month ago, and
process
we
with everything, and if
we
it
got
doesn't
German to
have it,
implement that.
it will show that it's missing, and there will also be a recommendation from the zoning administrator, and if they're missing certain things, it's gonna point out to you, this is what it's missing.
so it needs to be recommended denial on incomplete package, huh?
Yeah.
Based
They
on
shouldn't
that.
even
It's
consider it.
missing that.
Perfect
Yeah.
language.
They can still move forward with
Yeah.
it, it's their right to say, I still wanna go before P and Z,
Okay.
and they can vote it down there, I still wanna go to the council.
And the thing is, we
Their
need to,
right
I
do
think
it.
with time, you won't have that.
Yeah.
But I think people are so used to asking, I mean, when I first took this seat, you had people asking for variances to variances and variances to stuff that, I was like, you can't legally ask for
And-
a variance to that, you can ask for a variance to this, this, and this. I mean, we had people asking for, like, variances to special use districts, that you can only have a special use district if you have these requirements in it.
Yeah.
Like, you can't do that. So, I think with time, you're not gonna have a lot of the issues that we've had, because people are gonna know this is what the city of Bay St. Louis has. Unfortunately, we haven't been that clean, and so we're starting a new process, and once people get the hang of it and know what's gonna happen, but they, like I said, they used to coming in and saying, oh, well,
And
I'm
with
gonna ask
the-
for a variance to that one, a special exception, and oh, that says that there, well, who cares about that? We're just gonna keep rolling.
I think I'm gonna go ahead and cut this short, gentlemen. I think the people in this room are in heated agreement.
oh, yeah, yeah.
I think most of you,
We do.
have felt the general sentiment of the public
We
that
have.
we've got good zoning regulations, we got good outline.
Yeah.
You know, if we stick to the rules that we have written, and we're consistent with sticking to the rules, we're no longer, we need to do this for economic development. How many years? Back in 2008, I came and just
Yep.
what Ms. Heather just said. You want a variance in Bay St. Louis, they give you a variance for anything.
Yeah.
Don't go to Long Beach and Gulfport though and ask for it, they'll tell you
Exactly.
where to go.
Yep.
We're in heated agreement,
Yes, sir.
we need to move ahead, we got a set of rules, you gentlemen have the ability to change the rules.
Yep.
But the rules are what the rules are. Gary, I know when you were on P and Z, Kyle, you were on P and Z. Maybe some of you other guys were, Buddy, you were in the city for some point, before I was here. I can tell you, humans
Mhm.
like consistency. They wanna know what the rules are, even if they don't like them. They wanna know what the rules are and know that, yeah, these are what the rules are. And you can't just walk into Bay St. Louis and ask for a variance and know ahead of time you're gonna get it.
Yes.
Because that is the mentality, or has been the mentality, and it is slowly changing. And
Mhm.
Kyle, you and I had this discussion. It's time to make it where, well, y'all used to give those out, yeah, but we don't anymore.
Yeah.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Things changed
Thank
from
you.
1960. Oh,
See you next meeting.
yes.
You're over 3 minutes.
I have one question on that, Ms. Smith. Is there a deadline, say, well, I want to submit it to make the paper real quick for advertising. Then they want to bring you a piece of paper for the tree plat a week later. Is it not accepted then? Or
It shouldn't
is it
be.
accepted up to the meeting? Or what's the drop dead time for them to have a complete packet?
So, legally speaking, the very last minute I would say you should add something is the day that publication goes. Now, if it doesn't add, if it changes the publication, but usually it doesn't,
Mhm.
but if somebody comes, if it advertises in the paper, what day's it run now? Thursday?
Mhm.
Thursday? If it's on Thursday, well, that Thursday morning at 8:05, if somebody walks in that door, you should have that full application ready.
Okay. All right.
You can't change, if there's something that needs to be tweaked in your publication, you can't change that. But if it's like tree survey or something, you know, it needs to be there where on day one, when we're advertising to the public needs to be able to go to your city hall and grab whatever folder or looking, if they wanna go ask for it, that information needs to be available.
So the first day of publication needs to be the drop
The
dead
package
deadline
should be
for
complete.
any new paperwork. That was my question.
You
And
have
they are
have
allowed
that
to look at the
package, it should
folder?
be whatever's in there.
Oh, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
all right, good deal. Thank you. Okay, city clerk's report. Moving right along. Motion to approve the Bay St. Louis docket of claims number 23032 dated August 8th, 2023 in the amount of $698,481.99. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion, Mr. Lewis. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Noblock. Discussion? Vote to motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes 5-0. Thank you. B is motion to approve the City of Bay St. Louis docket of the claims number 23-033 special dated August 8th, 2023 in the amount of $21,331.20. Do I have a motion? Motion, Mr. Seal. Do I have a second?
Second. Discussion.
Second, Mr. Noblock. Discussion? Go ahead.
What's HARP special, or what's,
What is that, Gary?
it says transfer general fund to HARSP.
Is that Harbor Special?
Harbor.
Harbor? Okay.
Mhm. Yes. Okay. Any further discussion? Vote to motion?
Aye.
Aye. Passes 5-0. Thank you. Anything else, Mr. Russo? All right. The consent agenda items A through T. Do I have a motion? Motion, Mr. Zimmerman. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. Mr. Seal. Discussion?
Yeah, the only thing on the, school lease agreement, the lease agreement is incomplete. No dates in it or anything.
So
Do we need to approve that?
you're actually just approving the form of that, Doug.
Okay.
It will be brought back to you with its spread and fully executed, because we actually are waiting on Stanislaus.
Okay.
But we wanted to go ahead and get it to y'all in case they send it back signed. So you may see that again, but one, wanted to make sure you're okay with the concept. Two, that substantial form. Three, you will definitely be seeing it executed again in an actual form of approval.
Yeah, and also says general layout and design of parking was also attached, but there's a plat map basically with no delineation of parking, but again, it's a somatic, right?
It's not on there?
It's just a plat map and it's got a little black lines, but it doesn't show parking or anything. It just shows the property, basically what property we're leasing from them. There's no, the lease agreement says, and design of parking. Again, it's a somatic, it's minor detail, but
Well, so some of this will also be added. So what it is you are leasing that triangle.
that little section,
But-
that little section, right?
Yeah, you're leasing the
Little
outside.
black, little highlighted black section, that's all we're leasing, isn't it?
Outskirts
The triangle,
around
like it
Yeah,
looks like
the
an
little
arrow.
cemetery on
Yeah.
that corner,
Mm-hmm.
But it's just,
and then on the
strip of
corner
it.
on the other.
yeah, just shows a little black strip around.
Is that what, I don't have.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's all it shows.
And I don't know, they may know this, I don't know if the actual what's done. I think they're trying to
fine.
get
It's drawn
Boutique
up.
to agree. Is it drawn up?
Okay.
We can send that to y'all if y'all heard already.
There's gonna be some additional parking, correct?
That's for additional
Bit,
parking.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's good.
And I
Yeah.
think the part over by the cemetery is gonna be a limestone parking lot for golf carts only.
Oh, on that corner?
Mhm.
It don't show that, yeah.
On the east corner, behind Al Kingston.
Right.
Right
That's
there.
what Mike,
I think along the road, on both sides of the road, they had parking down through there for vehicles, handicap parking over on the depot side. I think it's showing either 2 or 4 more spots over there on that side of the road for handicap spots. And then the other point up there will have golf cart parking over there. The other side, the south side of it, we won't go down that side because of all the close proximity to the oak trees and all on there. We'll try to somehow keep people from driving through that and all.
Okay.
And Mayor, and this is a little bit off, but on speaking of that, on the golf course, and this would be county, but I saw 2 over the weekend on the bike path. Do we need to maybe see if they can put a sign? I mean, it's obvious that that's not for golf carts, but
you're
And
going
then I
down
think
the
there's
beach.
one on the bridge even. Someone said there's one driving on the bridge, on the walking path
I
on the
got a
bridge.
picture of that one.
Yeah. So do we need to
It
put,
wasn't me, but I do have a picture of it.
Golf
I mean,
course ride on the
Had a-
walking
it had
path
a
and the
passenger
bicycle
stand
ride the
sticker on
street.
it.
Yeah,
tell you. And that's
Yeah,
more, again,
I-
the bike path's the county, but
Yeah.
yeah, we'll give it them.
So are we leasing that whole triangle from Stanislaus?
No, you're only leasing that arrow that's outlined, that black
That
arrow
black
on
arrow?
the perimeter.
Yeah, so that property by Al Kingston's, we're not leasing. That point on that corner, which is he's leasing little black strips, right?
Which is Hancock Street you're talking about, Hancock and
Blaze
Bookter.
and,
Looks like Blaze and Bookter we're leasing, it looks like, huh?
see, that's, well,
This, you're leasing this.
That little,
See this?
them
Yeah.
dots.
That's a building. Or, I don't know.
I don't know, right? So that's,
That's the graveyard.
We're
You're
leasing
leasing
around
this.
through
we're
here.
just leasing the black,
The
around the
legal
black.
description
It's just this
is
little
this.
section.
Think
Yeah.
this-
We're not leasing none of this over here.
No,
This
none
right
of
here.
this.
think that's.
No, it's not
No,
in
we're
here.
not leasing that.
Well,
Yes, we are.
okay, well, it's not in
in
here.
this lease. That is not what we're, the lease is Blaze Avenue, is this triangle. Bookter,
Mhm.
down to this triangle, back
It's just a
over.
little,
It's supposed to be this down
well,
through
that's why I
here,
was
yeah.
asking what,
That's where golf cart's going in there.
all right,
It's on the initial drawing to where that's gonna be
That's
the
now,
golf.
that's North Beach Properties LLC, that's not even Butu, so that can't be in here.
Correct. That's the building, that's the Al
I
Kingston
don't know.
building.
I don't know what's what.
This corner here, down through here is Stanislaus is what we will lease.
All right, do y'all need to update this?
Huh?
Do we need to update this?
I don't know, there might be, I don't, I
Is there
have no clue.
another-
I asked Jason what
It
we
should
were,
be.
what we were leasing,
Yeah.
that's what he gave me,
So we're just basically approving
did
the
too.
form right now,
Yes.
Yeah.
Alright.
and y'all will figure out what we're leasing.
Yeah.
Cause there's no legal description
Man,
on
I
the
just
form.
had that big printout.
Oh.
I do
Is
too.
there?
yes, it's,
Oh,
I'll email
yes,
it.
there is. There's legal description attached.
Mhm.
So we need to not
Yeah.
approve this form, I don't know.
look, all I know is I asked Jason, what are we leasing, and that's what he sent, so I don't know about that little corner.
I
That
don't know why he left that out, but
Yeah.
that's a big part. That's where the golf cart parking lot will be on that corner back over there on Hancock Street, coming off Hancock.
All I do is what I've told, so.
So,
Find out, get him to add it to it.
Okay.
so Hancock and Bookter should be on, so you wanna remove that off of the consent for now? So you bring back revised drawing, or? And legal description's gonna be different too, I would think, when they add that.
Yeah.
Part of the property, and it's gonna change the coordinates.
Yeah.
So,
Just
okay.
remove,
won't
is it G? We're not hurt, I mean,
Yeah, so the
Move G.
consent agenda is gonna be motion to approve A through T minus G, which is the lease.
a motion.
Okay, motion C, Zimmerman, second seal, so vote, any more discussion? Vote to motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes 5-0. Minutes approval, minutes from the second regular meeting, July 18th, 2023. Do I have a motion? I make a motion.
I read 'em.
second.
Motion to Salvo. Lewis, second. Vote to motion. Aye.
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 Not trying to find them.
Yeah. You voted that sealed?
Yes.
Okay, 5-0.
No changes.
City Hick, minutes approval, special meeting, July 27th, 2023, 5:30 PM. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion, Mr. Seal. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Noblock. Any further discussion? Vote to motion.
Aye.
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 Motion passes 5-0. Attorney's report, closed or executive session? Do we wanna do that today?
Guys,
Huh?
up to y'all.
I don't think we got it.
Well, what do you think y'all got?
Oh, I don't know. I think they said they
You
got
wanna
it.
go
We
executive
just need to
session?
update
No.
something.
Okay.
We'll ask
Curious
about
on
it
what
again.
we're dis-
Yes.
we brought up in the meeting.
Yeah. What's that? Don't go into it, okay. All right, so, need to have a motion to,
Just so we
Go-
all clarified,
huh?
just so I'm clarifying. I mean.
Okay. All right,
Are we going to the closed session to talk about 920 South Beach litigation?
okay, nine
what
twenty
we're-
South Beach. Okay, so motion to go into closed session to discuss 920 South Beach litigation. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion, no block. Do I have a second? Second, Seal. Vote to motion.
Aye.
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 Passes 5-0, so we are now in closed session to determine the need for executive session. Thank y'all.